My wife demands to sell my dog to pay for yoga classes, so I'm divorcing her. I, 32 male, have been married to Sarah, who's 31, for 3 years. I have a 7-year-old golden retriever named Buster. I've had Buster since he was a puppy. He's been with me through job losses, a cross-country move, and the death of my father. He's not just my pet, he's my best friend. Sarah has never really been a dog person, but she tolerated him. However, lately, she's become obsessed with this high-vibe wellness community. It started with expensive juices and escalated to her wanting to join an elite spiritual yoga retreat that costs $8,000 for 2 weeks. We don't have that kind of money for fun right now, so I told her no. The next night, she sat me down with a straight face and a printed spreadsheet. She had researched purebred golden retriever resale value. "Buster is a high-quality dog," she said, as if she were talking about a used car. "I found a family online willing to pay $2,500 for a well-trained companion. If we sell him, plus the money I save on his vet bills and premium food this year, I'll have enough for the retreat." I thought she was joking. I laughed, but she didn't. She told me that Buster was stagnating the energy of our home and that my attachment to a sub-sentient creature was blocking her spiritual growth. I told her under no circumstances was Buster leaving. She lost it. She called me selfish and said I was prioritizing a literal animal over her mental health. Then she said, "I already told the family they could come meet him on Saturday. I'm your wife. I have a right to decide what assets stay in this house." That word, assets, that's what really did it for me. I realized I wasn't married to a partner anymore. I was married to a monster who saw my loyalty to a living being as a line item in a budget. I didn't even argue. I spent the next morning at my lawyer's office. Since I owned Buster and the house before the marriage, her assets argument was legally dead in the water. When the family showed up on Saturday to meet the dog, I met them at the driveway. I explained the situation, that my wife was trying to sell a dog she didn't even own without my consent. They were horrified and left immediately. I walked back inside, handed Sarah a folder containing the divorce filing and a notice to quit for the property. She's currently staying with her spiritual mentor, aka the dude who consumes only green juice and never smiles. She's been texting me constantly, saying I'm destroying a marriage over a dog. I haven't replied. I'm just sitting on the porch with Buster, who's currently snoring on my feet, completely unaware that he almost got traded for a yoga class. So glad you're getting away from her. This hits so hard because I almost lost my husband to a different version of this. A neighbor started getting him into that alpha male content, and within weeks he was a different person. He went from being my partner to acting like he was a drill sergeant, obsessed with gaining muscle and wanting to prove his high status. The only thing that actually saved our marriage was a weird turning point where he stumbled onto some videos making fun of those guys. He started seeing the contradictions and how none of the people teaching that stuff actually look happy or at peace. I finally got through to him that those creators just prey on insecure men. They spread an ideology that feels like a community of strength, but once you pull back the curtain, it's really just a cycle of anger and a total lack of enjoying life. I'm glad you protected Buster, because once someone starts seeing family members as assets or obstacles, the person you loved is already gone. Selling a senior dog for a yoga retreat? That's some next-level delusion. If you're willing to trade a family member's dog for a yoga retreat, you might not even have a soul. Oh, don't even look at me like that, Reddit boy. Even I have limits, you know. If anyone tried to sell my dog, I wouldn't be looking for a yoga retreat. I'd be looking for a lawyer and a very large shovel. That woman isn't a Karen. She's just a monster in leggings. Looks like even Karen has a heart for the pups. But what do you guys think? Have you ever seen someone go off the deep end for a hobby or a lifestyle change? Let us know in the comments if you've ever had to choose between a partner and a pet. I think we all know who wins that one. And for every thumbs up this video gets, one entitled jerk doesn't get to sell someone else's pet. My mother-in-law wants us to file for bankruptcy for her debts. Buckle up, because this story is 20 plus years in the making. My husband, who's 29, and I, 27 female, are recently married, but we've been together for over 8 years. We're college sweethearts. I grew up in a big family that wasn't always well off, but worked its way into a comfortable life. My parents are still married and very involved. My husband, on the other hand, came from a much harder background. His parents were divorced, and he was raised primarily by his mom. He only saw his dad occasionally during holidays or family visits. He grew up in a house with his mom, her boyfriends over the years, and one of his half-sisters. From the beginning, my husband was very open with me. He told me he dated with the intention of marriage, so he didn't hide anything about his family or finances. About a year into our relationship, he mentioned almost casually that his mom had taken out 4 credit cards in his name when he was still a child. He said she told him she was paying them off. I told him that wasn't okay and that he needed to take control of those accounts. He was hesitant. At the time, he still lived with her and didn't want to cause any problems. He also didn't want to report fraud because he didn't want his mom to get into legal trouble. I understood that she was a single parent of 2 kids and likely struggled financially, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but I still encouraged him to check in on those accounts regularly. A year later, he told me he had to file for bankruptcy. This time, it wasn't directly about the credit cards. It turns out, when he was very young, his mom had claimed he had a severe condition and applied for disability benefits on his behalf. Those payments continued well into his early 20s. When I met him, he genuinely believed he had that condition. I have a medical background and have worked closely with patients with similar diagnoses, and I could tell early on that something didn't add up. He does have ADD, which can sometimes be confused with other conditions, but nothing close to what he had been told. Eventually, the state reviewed his case and determined he should not have been receiving those payments. They issued a notice demanding repayment of over $20,000. The debt was placed in his name since the payments were tied to him. Instead of handling it properly, his mom told him they could take care of it through bankruptcy. He believed her and thought it had all been resolved. Fast forward to 2025. We're planning our wedding and living together. At this point, I suggested again that he take control of those credit accounts since we were about to merge finances. He agreed, but wanted to wait until after the wedding because his mom was already causing issues during the planning process, picking random fights and being hostile to people we employed to help plan the wedding. It had gotten so stressful that we even considered not inviting her. Around that time, we met with a financial advisor. When they pulled up our credit reports, we were shocked. My husband's credit score had dropped significantly, and there was still over $20,000 in debt showing. He reached out to his mom, and that's when we found out she had been receiving letters about the debt for years and never told us. She told us not to worry and suggested again that we just file for bankruptcy. That's when we realized he had never actually filed for bankruptcy. She just let him believe that the problem was gone. I was furious at that point. My mom, who has experience in finance and legal processes, explained to us that filing for bankruptcy would affect our future for years, making it difficult to buy a home, get loans, or move forward financially. It also comes with costs and legal requirements. She strongly advised against it. Here we were, trying to build a life together, and his mom was asking us to sacrifice our future to fix the situation that she created. My husband started to withdraw. It was finally hitting him just how serious the situation was. He also started reflecting on his own childhood and how differently he was treated compared to his siblings. My mom stepped in and helped us file an appeal on the $20,000 debt. That process takes time, sometimes months or even years, but she's confident it will be resolved in his favor. After the wedding, my husband had a serious conversation with his mom. He told her we needed full access to the accounts and that she would need to start paying him directly. She reacted badly. During that conversation, he also discovered she'd been checking our credit without our knowledge. Around the same time, our dog had a medical emergency and we had to open a care credit account to cover the costs. Thankfully, he's okay now, but it added more stress to an already overwhelming situation. His mom said some deeply hurtful things to him during that conversation, including comments that made him feel like he had no value. She also spoke negatively about me. That was the breaking point for him. He left his job at her restaurant and told her that if she didn't hand over the accounts within a month, we would report the fraud. They didn't speak for 2 weeks, which was unusual for them. Eventually, she reached out again, but nothing changed. No accounts were handed over. After waiting long enough, my husband reported the fraud to the credit card companies. The accounts have now been shut down and an investigation is underway. We've locked our credit with all 3 bureaus as well. At this point, we're low contact with her. The damage she's caused, both financially and emotionally, has just been too much. On a positive note, hubby has grown closer to my family. My parents have welcomed him with open arms, and it's been healing for him to experience that kind of support. We're now waiting to see how everything plays out legally. I did type this story while sleep deprived and didn't want to make it too long, so if you need clarification, just ask. Edit. Just to clarify a few things, I'm a cardiac nurse, not a finance expert. Some of the details around the disability case were things I learned along the way. Also, we've already locked our credit and reported all fraudulent accounts. What stands out to me is how long this went on without your husband realizing the full extent of it. That's what makes situations like this so difficult. When it's apparent, there's trust there, and it takes a lot to break out of that mindset. The emotional side of this is just as serious as the financial side. Growing up in that kind of environment can really affect how someone sees themselves. It's good he has your support and your family now. Update 9 days later. After leaving his mom's restaurant job, my husband found a new position. It offers better pay, more consistent hours, and even benefits, which has been a huge step forward for us. Around that time, he also met with my mom to help compare my work benefits with his and to get some guidance. During that meeting, they went through his credit more thoroughly and officially reported the fraud to the credit card companies and the credit bureaus. What we thought was 2 cards turned out to be 5, with over $22,000 in total debt, meaning she was likely still using the cards. That was the final push. He sent one last message to his mom, telling her that she had her chance to fix things and that he was now reporting the fraud. She responded with a flood of messages accusing my family of turning him against her and placing blame on me for our financial situation. That part didn't even make sense, especially considering I've been the primary earner and I've never taken anything in his name. When my husband showed my mom those messages, her entire perspective changed. Where she had previously tried to tolerate mother-in-law in small doses, she now made it very clear that she wanted nothing to do with that kind of behavior. At this point, the fraud has been officially reported, the accounts have been closed, and the credit card companies are investigating. Based on what we've been told, it's unlikely this will lead to jail time, but there will likely be financial consequences and a formal record of what happened. As for the disability-related debt, we're still in the waiting phase of the appeal process. That can take months or even longer. But we're feeling hopeful since my husband meets the criteria and we've provided the necessary documentation. We've now gone fully no contact with mother-in-law. This was not easy for my husband. He rarely cries, but everything that's happened over the past year, especially the messages she sent, pushed him to a breaking point. He blocked her while we were at my parents' house. My parents stepped in a way he had never experienced before. They reassured him that he's part of our family and that he's not alone. They gave him a hug, something he said he never really had growing up, and took him out for breakfast just to help him process everything. That moment meant a lot. For the first time, he has a sense of what a healthy support system looks like. We're still navigating everything, but we're in a much better place than we were before. I'm really glad to hear things are moving in a better direction. What your husband went through is incredibly difficult, and it takes a lot of strength to finally draw that line. It sounds like he's found a much healthier support system now. It might still be worth having an independent professional review everything, just to make sure nothing else was missed. Situations like this can sometimes have more layers than expected, and having a neutral third party could give you peace of mind. 5 credit cards in his name since childhood? That's not parenting, that's a full-time side hustle. Side hustle? Oh please, she built a whole financial career off of her own kid. And then tells them to file for bankruptcy like it's a group project. We're in debt, she says. Ma'am, you're the liability. My wife wants me to shave my head to support her. I'm a 30-year-old man and my wife is 29. She was recently diagnosed with alopecia, which means her hair will fall out, possibly permanently. She already has a few bald spots showing. It's been hard emotionally for both of us, especially for her. For me, it's more about seeing someone I love go through something like this and not being able to fix it. I've tried to support her in every way that I can. Recently, she told me she wants to take the plunge and shave her head. She also wants me to be the one to do it. A few days ago, she showed me a video on Instagram of a guy shaving his wife's head and then shaving his own right after her. She looked at me and asked, "Would you do that for me?" Here's the thing. I shaved my head once in my early 20s as a dare. I hated it so much, and I told myself I'd never do that again, unless I actually went bald someday. Also, my wife might be bald permanently. So, does that mean I'd have to stay bald too? I don't think I could do that long term. I told her I didn't want to shave my head. I said I'd still help her shave hers, I just didn't want to do mine. She didn't take it well. She said I wasn't supporting her, and that if I didn't want to be married to a bald woman, then maybe I should just divorce her. Really? I've been there for her through everything. I've reassured her over and over that she's still beautiful to me, with or without hair. I've told her I married her for who she is, not for her hair. I've sat with her, listened to her, and done my best to be a steady presence while she processes all of this. I even bought her 4 nice wigs for over $100 out of my own pocket and have done nothing but been a shoulder to cry on. All this just because I won't shave my head? I understand she's hurting, I really do, but I also feel like this is a big ask, and I don't think it's fair to question my support over this one thing. I'm just not sure what the right move is here. That escalated fast. It sounds like she's overwhelmed and scared, not trying to attack you personally. Still, support shouldn't come with ultimatums. You're allowed to have boundaries. Shaving your head is a big ask, especially if you already know how much you hate it. Supporting someone doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. This feels less about the hair and more about her wanting to not feel alone in something that's out of her control. It might help to talk through what that really represents to her before deciding anything. How exactly is it emotionally hard for you to be married to a bald woman? She's still the same person. You won't be married to a bald woman. You'll be married to your wife, who just happens to be losing her hair. Think about it. What happens as you both get older? What if she got seriously sick and lost her hair that way? She's clearly very emotional right now, which is understandable, but your wording comes off a bit harsh. You're allowed to not shave your head, but hopefully you're not framing this in a way that makes her feel worse about something she can't control. Alopecia is more than just hair loss. It's an autoimmune condition, and knowing your partner is going through something like that can be difficult to process too. That said, she's likely feeling very vulnerable and not like herself right now. Also, one good wig would cost around $500. Maybe do some research and get her an awesome wig. If my husband asked me to do something like that, I'd probably do it once just to show support. At the end of the day, she's your partner and your best friend. She's hurting right now, and while she may be overreacting a bit, this is probably coming from fear and insecurity. If you can, meet her halfway and support her in a way that still feels right for you. Update 4 days later. So I ended up thinking about everything I wrote in my original post and all the responses I got. One of my biggest concerns before was that my wife's hair loss might be permanent, and if I shaved my head too, I'd feel stuck staying bald long term. That idea really held me back. But after sitting with it for a few days, I realized this isn't really about me. This is something she's going through right now, and it's heavy. So I decided I could at least meet her halfway and do it once, just to support her through that first step. So last night, we did it. I let her shave my head first. I won't lie, I wasn't nearly as excited as she was, but seeing how much it meant to her made it worth it. Then it was her turn. She got emotional, which was completely understandable. I gave her a quick pep talk and told her that if I could do it, she could too. I reminded her that hair or no hair, she's still my wife and still beautiful to me. At that point, I even told her that if she wanted me to stay bald for a while, I would. Not forever, but long enough for her to feel like she wasn't alone in it. Then I shaved her head. There were definitely some tears from both of us. It wasn't easy, but afterward, she was genuinely happy. Not because of how she looked, but because she felt supported. That was the part that mattered. And just to be clear, we didn't film any of this or post it anywhere. This wasn't for attention or anything like that. I did it for her, and that's it. Thanks to everyone who took the time to respond to my original post. It helped more than you probably realize. You did a sweet thing, but a gentle note here. For her to ask you to do this, she's not in a good headspace. Y'all should shop around for a therapist for her, not an alopecia support group. I'm going to stress that. Unless you get really lucky, every single alopecia support group I've found has been incredibly toxic. That's why this has a gentle pink flag for me. It's a relatively normal reaction to this kind of trauma, but it shows she needs more support. I worry that in looking for support, she'll end up in some of the places that I did. There's a difference people are glossing over here. Wanting your partner to stand with you during something painful is understandable. Turning that into pressure or making their support feel not enough unless they change their body too is where it starts to cross a line. He was already showing up for her in multiple ways. That should count. Support isn't supposed to come with a checklist or a test you have to pass. It's given freely, not forced. So OP did end up shaving his head for his wife. Not gonna lie, that's commitment with a side of pressure. Apparently, love now comes with a razor and a performance review. Great effort, but next time suffer more convincingly. To be fair, he really did show up for her where it counted. Trust me, Reddit boy. Once someone learns they can pressure you into doing things that you clearly don't want to do, they rarely stop. I mean, come on, I'm a Karen. I'm a pro at this stuff. I fell for my realtor. Big mistake. I've been in the market to buy a home for the past year or two, but with interest rates being so high, I wasn't in a rush to buy. Anyway, I, male 28, ended up meeting my real estate agent when I went out with friends to a popular local beer garden. She's attractive, and I recall her being very flirty. I mentioned I was in the market for a home, and we ended up exchanging numbers at some point. We ended up going on what I thought were several dates, and for what it's worth, I'm very shy and haven't had a lot of experience in dating. We would meet up after work for a drink or two and mostly chat about non-real estate topics. This is why I thought that maybe she was interested in dating. We never kissed or anything, although she would sometimes touch my arm or shoulder in what seemed like a more than friendly way. She did always seem really busy though and couldn't stay for more than 30 minutes or so most of the time. After our third date, she told me about this amazing home that just came on the market that met most of my criteria and was close to my budget. The house was move-in ready. Really, all I needed to do was change the paint in a couple of the rooms. The seller renovated and used dark blue paint upstairs. Is this a trend now? I toured the place and quickly decided I loved it and I had to buy it. In hindsight, I wonder if I was more excited about my realtor and trying to impress her than the actual house. Anyway, I decided to put an offer in, and this is where my first warning flag should have been obvious. She mentioned that there was just an open house the day before I viewed the property, and they were expecting at least a handful of offers from that. When I looked on Zillow, I noticed that the property was on the market for 17 days, which I thought was odd that they had waited so long to do the open house to get offers. When deciding on the offer terms, she insisted that if I was serious and not kicking the tires, I had to 1. Put 10% hand money down, 2. Offer at least a little over the asking price, and 3. Waive the inspection. I've had a few friends get into bidding wars and lose many offers, and they started waiving the inspections, so it didn't seem all that unreasonable at the time. I ended up doing 5% hand money, $5,000 over the asking price, and waived the inspection. Big mistake. Fast forward to the inspection, they found the foundation was shifting, and after getting a quote, it would cost around $15,000 to fix it, which, ironically enough, was less than the hand money I put down. I begrudgingly decided to move forward, because everything else about the home I liked. Everything else was fairly normal, except one thing stuck out to me at closing, and it seemed like my agent and the seller were friends, as when I walked in, it sounded like they were chatting about something completely unrelated to real estate. Closing went through, I moved in, and other than the foundation surprises, I've been pretty happy with this place. The realtor was able to meet up again for drinks, surprise, surprise, after closing. Fast forward to last weekend, and I saw the seller from closing out at the same beer garden with his arm around my realtor. She came up to me and said that, oh yeah, they met at closing and blah blah blah, but I'm calling BS. I have no way of proving anything, but lesson learned. Never waive your inspection, and don't fall for anyone who's making money off their interaction with you. I feel so embarrassed in hindsight. Check your state's real estate laws. It's very possible that if there was a relationship there prior to her getting you to buy the house and that wasn't disclosed, it could be illegal. So I would check your laws. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that his mom is no longer welcome in our house? I'm 30, female. My husband, who's 31, dated Kathy, who's 30, for 3 years while in university. They were planning to get married when Kathy became pregnant, but she confessed that the child may be another man's. They broke up, but a DNA test proved my husband was the father. As such, my husband agreed to co-parent but refused to rekindle the relationship. Very sadly, he was born with a heart defect and he passed at 4 months. Both Kathy and my husband were destroyed, and Kathy ended up moving away. My husband went on to meeting me, and we were married 2 years ago. My mother-in-law, who's 60, has always carried a torch for Kathy and thought that they should get back together when the baby was proven to be my husband's. Then the next reason became so that Kathy and my husband could be there for each other. Unfortunately, mother-in-law has never made it a secret of not liking me, to the extent where she has excluded me from family photos because I am not family. My husband has always stood up for me in these scenarios. My mother-in-law's birthday was last weekend, and my husband wanted to throw a celebration at our house. We went the whole 9 yards with a cake and decorations. My husband also asked for my help picking out a very expensive handbag as a gift. I love my husband, and I know he loves his mom, so I'm happy to help him do something nice for her. My mother-in-law showed up on the day with Kathy in tow, which was a surprise for everyone. She said that she had run into Kathy at the store as Kathy had recently moved back, and mother-in-law wanted to reintegrate the mother of her grandchild back into the family. I was really upset, but this was only exasperated by my mother-in-law constantly trying to throw my husband and Kathy together. Kathy, why don't you sit next to him? Kathy, why don't you go help him with the barbecue? Kathy, would you mind asking him where this is? I spent the whole day biting my tongue, but it was too much when everyone left and my mother-in-law asked Kathy to give my husband a hug. My husband initially refused, but after some pushing from mother-in-law, he relented and hugged Kathy. As soon as they left, I asked my husband what was he thinking. He said he didn't want to upset my mother-in-law on her birthday, but I asked why did he want to upset me. He said that he didn't, he just thought it would be easier to handle with me later. I was furious and said that I expect that either mother-in-law apologize or she's no longer welcome in our home. My husband said that I'm going too far, but I don't think I'm being unreasonable. Was I the jerk? Not the jerk. Easier to handle with you later is code for I'd rather upset you because it's easier to make you forgive me than to deal with the cause of the issue. He allowed his mother to force this because he didn't want to upset her on her birthday when she brought the ex who cheated on him to your home and tried to make them flirt. She deserved to have her birthday ruined. Make your husband deal with his mother. Make it clear that the standard he ignores is that standard he accepts, and even though he normally stands up for you, it's time that he stop the disrespect entirely. My wife, together for 12 years, married for 7, is leaving me for someone that she's known for 3 months. A slight preface. My wife and her brother were very close when they were younger. He started getting into drinking and he went to prison for 10 years. He went immediately back to drinking, then he ended up passing away. My wife, who's 30, and I, 33, started going to the gym together. We were loving the results. It made our love life even better, and we couldn't keep our hands off of each other. We felt as happy and close as ever. 3 weeks after her brother passed, this guy chats her up at the gym, and she immediately clicks with him. I was wary, but I trusted my wife. She's a sweetheart, and I never imagined her having the ability to have an affair. Last weekend, we had one of the most romantic days and evenings that we've had in a while. This week, she decides that she can't go on without finding out why she developed such a quick connection with this guy. We own a house and 3 pets. Her family and everyone we know are devastated and blown away, but she's dead serious. The woman I knew last week even, has left the building. This is a living nightmare that I just want to wake up from. We did couples counseling 3 times and have one scheduled on Wednesday, but she has completely made up her mind and seems to have rapidly fell out of love with me. My life as I know it is over. I just need to get this off my chest. Update. My wife filed for divorce a month after moving out. During this time, I did the whole online dating thing which was way worse than I could have expected. Kept myself busy working out, building my own confidence, hanging out with friends. In general, it was horrible, but I was trying to keep my head up. I was in therapy, didn't jive with my first therapist, found a new one in December who I liked a lot more, and I'm still seeing her. Mid-December, my wife calls me, crying, asking if she can stay in the guest room because she has nowhere to go. I say yes, even though she hurt me badly, I did still love her. So things with guy from the gym turned very toxic very fast. I know the word narcissist gets thrown around a lot these days. This guy though, it's hard to believe people like him even exist. So she stays in the guest bedroom for a week, then she goes and stays at her parents for a month. She had a nervous breakdown and was able to get medical leave of absence from her work. Mid-January she comes around and she's back at the house, but still in a very frantic and erratic state. I had no idea about the addictive nature of toxic relationships. It's crazy. She's clear that she's too messed up in the head to be in a relationship and is going to work on herself. I gave her the time and space that she requested. She goes all in on learning about the psychology of all of this, inner child work, how the nervous system reacts and attracts you to toxic people if you grew up in a toxic household, anxious and avoidant attachment styles. There's this book called How to Stay Married where the wife had an affair and it turns out the root of the issue was her unresolved trauma. Long story short, same thing happened here. It hurts, but I can forgive her. She's my best friend, and we are insanely compatible in a lot of ways. She's really been returning to herself this past month. She's the happiest that I've seen her in at least a year, and last week, we filed the paperwork to dismiss the divorce. We are both in individual counseling and soon to start couples therapy. I'm sure a lot of people will think I'm making a mistake in reconciling, but I'm happy. I do trust her now that she has the knowledge to not let this happen again, and she has the drive to become the best person that she can be. Edit. I'm reading all of these comments and taking everything to heart, especially the ones calling me stupid, chump, doormat. I completely understand where you're coming from. I just don't have time or desire to respond to so much. I want things to work out, and I do trust my gut that this was a one-time thing. I'll post an update, and I'll take all of the "I told you so" if it comes to that. What boundaries did you set? I'm asking because we only have a couple of posts for insight, and from what's there, it strongly implies she hasn't accepted responsibility nor accountability for what she did to you. Man, she didn't just break your heart, she shattered and then stomped on the pieces. Healthy relationships need trust, respect, and boundaries. She violated all three in the most humiliating way. Is it possible you are just fleeing back into a safe space, your marriage, that in reality doesn't exist anymore? Doesn't read like there's anything stopping her from doing this to you again. Good luck, man, but wow, what she did to you was beyond messed up. The only thing worse would be if you were now raising his kid too. Karen refuses to adopt and will only do IVF. I'm 19, female. My oldest sister, who's 30, has been struggling with infertility for the past 3 years since they started trying for a baby. This Easter, she and her husband made the announcement that they're going to be pursuing IVF and will start a GoFundMe for it. They looked at our parents expectantly and made it quite clear they expect them to front a lot of the cost. We are far from wealthy, and my parents work and save every penny from their labor jobs. I've been working ever since I was 16 to help support the household too, and to save money to move out. Everyone congratulated them on the decision and wished them luck. But when I got a chance, I told them they were being selfish for spending money the family doesn't have just to have a biological kid, especially since there are so many kids out there available for adoption. For context, I was adopted into my family at a young age, so I'm probably very biased about this topic. I think IVF in general is a selfish thing to do, and the fact they can't even pay for it themselves is the cherry on top. Now my sister won't speak to me, and my family members, except one sister, are calling me a jerk for saying that. My one sister says she understands where I'm coming from. Am I the jerk? Edit. Upon further evaluation after reading some comments, I've come to understand my own feelings a bit more. I believe the majority of my hang-up is about IVF itself, not necessarily how my parents choose to spend their money. They are, and have always been, the most generous, kind-hearted people I know, and I wouldn't want that to change about them, and they can use their money however they want to. They wouldn't have taken me in if they weren't the kind of people they are. While I currently morally believe it to be better to adopt rather than spend valuable financial and scientific resources for biological kids, I now see that expressing this opinion was very jerk behavior, and giving any sort of input into this from a moral high horse was really immature and inappropriate of me. Even if I believe it myself and am planning to adopt eventually too, I definitely do not believe in forcing my belief on others, and I definitely do not personally know the struggles of infertility as I'm still in the please don't be pregnant phase of my life. I will try to be less judgmental in the future and apologize to my sister, and I hope she can forgive me for my outburst. There's a lot of confusing emotions that got brought up with her announcement that had nothing to do with her and a lot to do with me. Therapy was suggested a lot. Maybe I will look into it once I have a real job. I didn't think I had any pent-up emotions or issues since my case was easy. My biological parents passed when I was 2, and their friends, aka my godparents, now parents, took me in. I don't even remember my biological parents, so I don't think there can be any issues. I'm not very well versed in the adoption and foster system and figured I would look more into it when it was that time for me, but now is as good a time as any. Thanks for the feedback. Not the jerk. I think you're wrong in your logic, but that doesn't make you a jerk, and I could be wrong in my assessment. I don't think they're selfish for wanting to do IVF instead of adopting. Adopting isn't for everyone, and some people want to have a biological kid if they can. That preference isn't wrong, it's just their preference. However, your older sister is selfish for expecting the family to pay for it, especially when they don't really have the means. Also, if your sister is in a position to afford IVF procedure on her own, is she really in a good financial position to be having a kid? I'm not so sure. Everyone sucks here. It is the truly important lesson that you should never comment on someone's desire to have or not have kids and how they might go about doing that. It is incredibly personal. Infertility is heartbreaking for many. You were absolutely a jerk for what you said. And yes, your history has biased you. It's fine to advocate for adoption. You don't have to call someone selfish while you're doing that. Your sister is a jerk because how you choose to have kids should not become someone else's financial burden. But that's still not your conversation to have. That's your parents' call. You're the jerk. You overstepped. Adoption is great, but it's not for everyone. All sorts of things get factored into that decision. It's not simply about people wanting their kids to be biologically related. Also, adoption is not a no-cost or even low-cost option. Them choosing IVF over adoption is not a personal attack on you. How they decide to grow their family is up to them, even if they're asking others to help with the costs. Whether your parents can or want to contribute financially is up to them. Am I the jerk for asking my brother to pay $30,000 for my engagement ring? Sweet home Alabama. Let's not jump to conclusions, Karen. Let's just read the story. I hosted a family dinner over the weekend. My brother brought my nephews, who are 4 and 8, over as well. I used to wear my engagement ring all the time, but lately I keep it in my walk-in closet and mainly wear it for special occasions. While I was cleaning up the dinner table, my nephews went to go play while the adults were still in the outdoor patio and outdoor kitchen area. My brother was not supervising his kids. During this time, my nephews went into the master bedroom without anyone knowing and started playing with everything, including my engagement ring. When we came to look for them, they panicked because they knew they weren't supposed to be upstairs, ran into the master bathroom, and flushed my ring. We called a plumber in case it was somehow in the U-trap of the toilet and not actually gone. But nope, unfortunately, it was gone for good. We still had the original receipt, so I called my brother. I emailed him a scanned copy as proof of the cost and asked him to reimburse me for the ring my nephew flushed. Immediately, he started calling me a jerk because we were family and he was just a kid. He has refused to pay the cost of my ring. I told him I'll be taking him to court for this, and now my entire family is blowing up my phone, saying family shouldn't sue each other and to just let it go. Edit. No, the ring was not insured. I found out the day after my nephew flushed it. My husband says he forgot and in the end never actually insured it. Edit 2. My brother says he does not have the money to repay even $100 per month and has refused any kind of repayment plan. He said I live in a nice enough house, and if I want a replacement, I should just sell my car. Edit 3. My brother, to this day, has not truly apologized. He said kids will do what is normal for kids, and they shouldn't be held responsible for a ring. They were supposed to supervise their kids outdoors with the rest of the family while I was busy cleaning up. Edit 4. I don't believe for a second my brother and his wife cannot pay for the cost of my engagement ring. They don't make anything near my husband, but they have a combined income of around $250,000. They don't pay rent or anything, because my parents gifted them their old house, valued at $3.5 million in Toronto, back when I bought my parents a new home years ago. There's no mortgage on the home my brother lives in. The only things my brother and his wife would have to pay is the cost of raising their kids, normal bills, and food. I feel so distraught because my ring holds great sentimental value. I've already been speaking with my husband's family lawyer, but at this point, I'm ready to hire a private investigator to find out if they really don't have the money. Not the jerk. His circus, his monkeys. He wasn't watching them, that's on him. 100% he should replace your ring. As for all the family who are blowing up at you, it's easy, when it didn't happen to them, to preach forgiveness. Ignore them. Also, 8 and 4 are more than old enough to know better. My 3-year-old knows not to touch someone else's things in their home without asking. Choices have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are expensive. Sorry this happened to you. You didn't insure a $30,000 ring? For those of you who say the insurance isn't the point, of course it's the point. The point of this whole thing is the sheer amount of money involved. Crap happens all the time. Kids get into things, dogs eat things, partners lose things. Anything that you value is on you to insure or protect. You're the jerk for walking around with a $30,000 liability the size of a marble and then pointing fingers at whoever touched it last before it disappeared. Not the jerk. Your family is right. Family shouldn't sue each other because it should be repaid without courts. Literally 90% of people can't afford a random $30,000 bill, but they can absolutely afford to repay it back over time. Her ring is gone, and it's gone through no fault of her own. She is owed restitution. Am I the jerk for canceling on family vacation after my newly widowed mom decided to bring her new boyfriend? My dad lost his 1.5-year battle with cancer 1 year ago, April of 2022, at only 62 years old. He and my mom were married for 31 years. The few months before my dad got sick, he and my mom were not on great terms and were contemplating divorce. However, through my dad's diagnosis and extreme ups and downs of treatment, they came together, squashed some of their issues, and my mom was there to care for my dad every step of the way. I miss him every day. Me and my mom had always been pretty close, but since my dad passed, I feel like I'm seeing and talking to her less and less these days, and it makes me sad. In August of 2022, 4 months after my dad passed, my mom started seeing someone. She'd call him her friend, slip in mentions of him in conversation, but I personally wanted nothing to do with him. Still don't. I thought it was too soon, and I told her so. Everyone grieves differently, and dating after losing a spouse is hard, but conversations I've attempted with this guy and the chemistry between them have been super awkward in my opinion. I feel like she's disregarding any feelings or pushback that's me, my sister, or extended family have about this relationship. Large extended family, all very close-knit. She has now started bringing him to events and parties, and there's an awkward vibe when he's around. Nobody wants to say it out loud. This past week, he showed up unexpectedly at our family Easter party at my parents' house. My mom knew he was coming and did not mention to anyone. Following tradition, we stood in prayer before we ate dinner, and my uncle prayed out loud for those who we have lost, and I felt so awkward that my mom's boyfriend was there, holding hands with my family as we talked about my dad, in my dad's house, almost only a year to the day that he passed. We're now booking flights for a large family vacation in June. Condo has already been booked for months, and my mom casually mentioned at Easter that she's bringing her boyfriend. I didn't hear this at the time and found out later from a cousin. I immediately called and told her my feelings about him going. I don't want him to, and she completely changed the subject and did not acknowledge what I told her at all. Not to mention, we had decided to leave a day early to save money on flights, but now that her boyfriend is going, it will actually cost me more because we will no longer be splitting the costs that we originally planned since they will be doing things separately. Money is not the problem though. It's now principle to me. Of the 20 family members that will be on this trip, not one person really wants him to be there except her. He will be staying in the same condo, and we're going to have to tiptoe around this awkward situation for an entire week while we should be relaxing and enjoying family time together. Am I the jerk for wanting to cancel on the family vacation and or stick to my guns about not wanting her boyfriend to go, even though she already booked his flight? You're the jerk. Sounds like your mom put aside the reason she wanted to divorce your dad to be there for him in his time of need and to honor their 31 years together. I'm sure you've read on Reddit how many men abandon their spouses when they get diagnosed with cancer. Your mom stayed until the end for him, even though the marriage was done. She stayed with him through his cancer and helped him. And now what? You're mad that she has a chance at happiness again? How many years of her life does she have to sacrifice before you decide it's okay for her to be happy? 1 to 2 years to nurse him, 1 year to grieve. That's already at least 3 years of sacrifice for an older woman who wanted to be free and have a better life. It doesn't matter what you think of her boyfriend. My own mom is dating someone I don't like, but I'm not going to say anything because he makes her happy. And yes, I'm going on an awkward family trip with them. Be a better kid to your mom. Goodness. You're the jerk. Your parents' marriage was over. If they were together for 31 years and talking divorce, dude, it's been over for a while. She sucked it up because he was dying. It's an awkward vibe because instead of being mature and being happy your mom found someone who makes her happy, you guys are refusing to be open. You're the jerk. Grow up. Your mother and father were already contemplating divorce. She stayed with him through his illness anyway. She didn't move on too quickly or do anything wrong. I'm sorry for your loss, but seriously, your mother deserves to be happy. You're the jerk. You said yourself that they were having marital problems before your dad's illness. Your mother did right by him and cared for him, but the issues were still there, just squashed as you call it. It makes sense that she moved on faster than you because her relationship with him was different than yours. He was your dad, but for her, he was a husband who she was considering divorcing. If this new man treats her well and makes her happy, just be happy for her. Don't you think she deserves to be happy? Not the jerk. I was wondering why everyone is tearing you to shreds. Honestly, my heart goes out to you, and I'd feel the same way if I were in your shoes. Then I saw in the comments that you're actually a male. Then it all made sense. If this was written by a daughter about her father, everyone would be telling her to go no contact with him. Gotta love Reddit. Nothing wrong with your noise? Let's see how you like it when you have a baby. I live in an 80s-style duplex building made of concrete cinder block bricks and moved in here mid-2016. My neighbor has a mirror of my apartment. They're both 2 levels with a gallery staircase in the middle. I love it here so much, but my neighbor, oh my goodness. We actually used to get along all right, and that was mostly because I like to keep the peace. But he loves having every door and window of his home open, and I live in a part of the world that is hot and humid for about 3/4 of the year. We also live right by a busy road. This wouldn't be that much of an issue, but his music and movies have to compete with the outside noise as well as the noise from his fans. He refuses to use his air conditioner. The result, even at low levels, is a booming bass in some of my rooms due to the resonance. It drives me crazy, and this could happen at any time of the day or night. I was losing sleep, and my mind was at wit's end. We finally fell out about a year ago. I had tried asking, begging, pleading, passive aggression. Every avenue had been exhausted by this point. I convinced him to come over to my house and just listen so he can hear for himself what I'm talking about, and thought surely he would realize that he needs to stop, or at least seriously adjust his sound settings. He said there was absolutely nothing wrong, and so I decided to change tack and increase the levels of my own system, much better than his, to roughly where his was. And again, he said there was nothing wrong and that he wasn't going to change anything. I was told that my sound wasn't able to be heard at their place and that I could leave the levels as they were and would just have to live with whatever sound came out of their home. At this point, I also started searching for phrases like narcissist or just a jerk to try to figure him out. He got with this lady he had been talking to, and it's an absurd and toxic relationship, but not my problem, and I figured at least he wasn't playing sound that boomed through my bedroom in the middle of the night. Anyway, cut to a few months ago, I noticed he had some old baby stuff on his patio that looked like it was bought from a garage sale 30 years ago, and then in the following months, I see his girlfriend with a definite baby bump. By now, I bet you can see where this is going. And so by that point, assuming things weren't going to change, I knew they wouldn't. This past month, my neighbor and his girlfriend have welcomed an adorable little screaming baby, which I can't hear from my place at all, thankfully. But apparently, they absolutely can hear sound coming from my place and told me as much when they knocked this week, and I greeted them with a big smile and congratulations. They told me that they're getting no sleep at all and that they're at their wits' end. They asked, begged, and pleaded with me to turn my sound system down, and I reminded my neighbor that my sound wasn't able to be heard from their house, and even if they could hear my sound, then they can just live with it. I might reduce the settings slightly once I know for sure that a lesson has been learned, and I'm well aware that this would fit in Am I the Jerk and Petty Revenge, but I thought I'd give it a go here. Am I the jerk for hiding vegetables in my boyfriend's food? I, 28 female, have been with my boyfriend, who's 36, for a year, and we moved in together about 4 months ago. One of the first things I noticed about my boyfriend was that he never really eats vegetables. He would sometimes eat them if we were out at a restaurant and they came as part of his meal, but he never ate them when I cooked for him. Originally, I thought that maybe my cooking was the problem, so I asked him if he enjoyed my food, and he told me he loves my cooking. On nights I didn't cook for him, he ate exclusively frozen foods and never ate the vegetables in those either. Naturally, he has some health issues, vitamin deficiencies, etc. He had phrased to me as if it were something just genetically unlucky. I believed it for a while because I don't know how that stuff works, but eventually it became clear to me it's because he voluntarily eats a vegetable like once a month. 6 months ago, I started hiding vegetables in my cooking. If I was making pasta, I'd put the vegetables in. I'd usually put in for myself. Just take half out and blend it so that he wouldn't notice the vegetable chunks, and then just tell him I'd scoop the vegetables out of his portion. This happens more often now that we live together because I do all of the cooking. He's been telling me a lot lately. He's been feeling a lot better the past few months and has even had his doctor reduce the dosage of some of his medications, and he hasn't had to take his multivitamin in weeks. I kept my mouth shut because I'm just glad he's feeling better, and it really does me no harm to hide the vegetables in his food. Yesterday, I was making one of our regular pasta meals. It's one that's very easy to hide at least 4 veggies in, and I was about to blend my boyfriend's portion when the blender died mid-blend. I had to serve it all in its vegetable chunky glory. My boyfriend refused to eat the vegetables, but when he tasted the sauce, he said it's weird how it tastes the exact same even though this one has vegetables in it. So I confessed. He screamed at me and called me a controlling jerk and said that it's none of my business if he thinks vegetables don't do anything. I pointed out that he said he felt better. He said his health was none of my business and that I'm a controlling, judgy jerk, and stormed out of our apartment to stay with his sister. His sister texted me to say he's fine, but she agrees with him. My friends agree it's ridiculous that he didn't eat vegetables, but agree that I'm being the jerk. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This is a grown man 8 years older than you. If he has a problem with your cooking, let him make his own food. He's already coddled by his sister and doesn't and shouldn't need to be coddled by you. My girlfriend told me no when I asked her to go to the prom with me. We're both 18. Last March, I asked my girlfriend if she wanted to be my prom date, but she told me no and said I should just find somebody else. She told me that I had no initiative because I only asked her after she sent a link which had a photo attached to it that said, "Will you be my prom date?" Fast forward to today, I asked her if she had any partner for the prom, and she said no because no one asked her. So I asked her again, but she asked me, "Did you just invite me because no one else did?" And I told her, "So you forgot that you rejected me?" I then reminded her that I asked her in March, but she rejected me. And here's how the rest of our conversation went. Her, "Oh yeah." Me, "I hope you and the one you'll accept as a partner have fun at the prom, babe." Her, "So you won't go near me during prom?" Me, "You and your partner should be together, and since I'm not your partner, I should respect you both and leave you two to be." Now she's blaming me, saying that I'm giving her away to another guy. She then told me, "You don't want to fight for me and try your luck again and again?" Then said, "You're fast at giving up." And she told me that we're ending the conversation. I then told her that it's like spinning for the wheel with 0% chance of winning, and that I won't fight for someone who doesn't want me or want to be fought for. And now she's silent. What am I supposed to do? Update. She said yes last night after being silent. Told me she was just playing hard to get. Then told me that it was like I was giving her away to someone else. I understood that I wasn't putting enough effort into asking her out, so I decided that I would get her chocolates, which are her favorite, and ask her out in person properly, for the third and last time. So this is how this morning went. I went to the nearest store and I bought some chocolates. Then I went to school. I found the right time to ask her out in person. I apologized for how I immaturely handled last night. I told her how I'd love to go to the prom with her, and she said yes. And no, I did not dump her. I want to understand why she did what she did, and I also understand how I also had a big part as to why she reacted that way, albeit immaturely. Thank you to everyone who's given me advice. I will take it all to heart. I understand that I am too young and immature to be in a relationship. I'm also trying my best to become a better partner and a person. When the time comes where I think that it's too unbearable, for now it's still okay, then I will make my decision and move on. Thank you all. This is immature, and when you look back on this 10 years from now, you're really going to cringe about all of this. Get a different girlfriend. She expects you to fight her over who gets to take her to prom? That's ridiculous. No means no. You deserve a better girlfriend. She's playing head games. You failed the test, my man. She was testing you to see if you were going to be a man and tell her you're taking her to prom. Instead, you showed her how weak you are and said someone else could take her. This happens early on in all relationships, and it determines whether or not she will respect you. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. I know it's been over a decade since I graduated high school, but have times really changed that much that, guys are okay with someone else taking their girlfriend to prom? Am I the jerk if I say no to allowing my husband's daughter to come live with us full time? I've been married to my husband for 6 years. We have 2 kids together who are 8 and 4. Our youngest is special needs. My husband also has a daughter who's 12 from his previous relationship. My husband's ex has had primary custody. My husband gets stepdaughter on weekends and alternating holidays and birthdays. This past weekend, my stepdaughter asked my husband if she can come live with him full time. Her mom recently moved in with her fiancé and his kids, and there's been some friction with that from what I understand. Nothing horrible, just a new house, new rules, having to share a bedroom, etc. My husband didn't give her an answer either way. He said he would look into it. When he and I were discussing it, I had the following objections. Stepdaughter and our kids do not get along. It's something that we've worked on for years, in and out of therapy, and it just won't happen. Stepdaughter resents my kids for existing, and she's cruel towards my youngest. There have been issues with her bullying them. My oldest is very protective of his little brother, and he hates stepdaughter for being so mean to his brother. They've really been getting into it over this. The truth is that most of the time we have stepdaughter, I make arrangements to take the boys to visit their grandparents, or husband takes her out of the house for daddy-daughter time to avoid conflict. I can't imagine how living together full-time would be for them. We really don't have room. We have a 4-bedroom home. Both my husband and I work from home so we can be caretakers for my youngest. Due to the nature of his disabilities, it's really not feasible for him and my oldest to share a room. It wouldn't be safe or fair for my oldest. My stepdaughter's room is used as my work-from-home office space during the week. I arrange my vacation time and whatnot around her visitation so I can stay out of her space while she's here. I have to take very sensitive phone calls, and I need a closed door when I work, so common areas are out, and my husband uses our bedroom as his home office, so that's out too. We don't currently have room in the budget to make an addition to the house or remodel non-livable space at the moment. My husband hears my objections and understands them, but he wants to go for it and figures that everything will eventually work out. He doesn't want his daughter to think that he's abandoning her. And I feel for her. It would be awful for your dad to say no when you ask if you can live with him. But I have my own kids to think about too, and I just don't believe that her living here is in their best interest at all, considering their history and our living arrangements. Does saying no put me in evil stepmom territory? Edit. For the people who want to make me into a horrible homewrecker to go along with being an evil stepmom, sorry to disappoint, but we did not have an affair. My husband and stepdaughter's mom were never married. They were never in a relationship. They were friends with benefits. They bartended together, would shoot the bull, and would sometimes drink and hook up. My husband claims that he needed beer goggles because she really isn't his type. When my stepdaughter's mom found out she was pregnant, she told my husband she was keeping it and asked if he wanted to be in the baby's life. They never lived together, except for a few weeks during the newborn stage to help out. Yes, I had my first before I married my husband. My husband and I were in a long-term relationship. My husband and I discussed what we wanted to do, and we decided that we wanted to raise the kid. A few days later, my husband proposed. I wanted to take time to recover from birth and wait until our kiddo was old enough to pawn him off on the grandparents for the week so husband and I could enjoy our wedding. We didn't get married until my oldest was 2. Honestly, I don't really know how to rule on this. Ultimately, I just feel bad for kids in her position. Obviously, no excuse for the bullying. Kids whose parents get divorced and start new families, and suddenly they have no place and they're no one's priority. Have quite a few friends who are in that position, and it just sucks. I would go for a middle route. Sit stepdaughter down and explain to her that the way she treats your kids has been unacceptable for a long time, and you refuse to let her live there if she's going to keep bullying them. Tell her that if she can change her behavior and treat her step-siblings with respect and kindness, you'll be willing to revisit the subject after she stays consistent for a year. I think that if you and your husband make it clear that her behavior towards the other kids is a problem, she'll understand. She also might just suck it up and deal with it at her mom's. But she needs to understand that her treatment of your kids is going to continue to be a problem if she doesn't choose to change. This is the humane and sane solution. Don't let dad walk away from stepdaughter, who should always have a place in his home, and ensure the other kids are emotionally and physically safe, which they have to be. Giving a 12-year-old that no one seems to want some efficacy and control over her living situation should help her either change her behavior or cope with her current situation. Everyone sucks here. And by everyone, I mean the adults. None of the kids are to blame for your failures. This is supposedly something you've worked on in and out of therapy for years, so you feel justified just giving up on your kids and their half-sister ever getting along? Really? If your kids were grown adults on their own, I might give you a pass for that. But the oldest here is 12. On top of her being 12, she was only 4 when your first son was born, and you and her father wouldn't marry for another 2 years after. Even if you weren't her father's affair partner, given how close her parents' split had already been, it certainly looks that way, and it's likely that her mother framed it that way. So yeah, at 12, her resentment is a little understandable. Likewise, your older son's resentment is understandable. However, none of that excuses you and your husband giving up on her. While his attitude of "it will just work out" is grossly irresponsible, he isn't wrong about how refusing will mean abandoning her. You don't get to just give up on your kid because things are difficult. Moreover, given that you chose to have kids with a man who already had a kid, you also don't get to just make him give up on her because it would be harder for you and your kids. She was there first and didn't choose any of this. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for not letting stepdaughter move in with them or not? Please let us know. A lawyer's pro-revenge on a landlord. Landlords are jerks, generally speaking. Everyone knows that. But if you think residential landlords are bad, they're nothing compared to commercial landlords. Landlords of commercial buildings are some of the cruelest, nastiest people I've ever come across. This revenge tale is about a commercial landlord and how I dealt with him. Back in the 90s, sometimes I'd go for lunch at this restaurant in the basement of our building. The place was called The Vault because it had a massive bank vault that had always been there, dating back to the days before the place was turned into a restaurant. The vault was so huge that they could seat a couple of tables in there, and you could eat dinner surrounded by rows of old, gleaming safe deposit boxes. One day I was there for lunch, and the owner took me aside. "The landlord's driving me nuts," he said. "The landlord drives everyone nuts." I was a subtenant in the same building, sharing space with an older lawyer, Aaron, and the landlord was always causing us trouble. I'd already had a few run-ins with him, and we hated each other on sight. In most jurisdictions, commercial landlords don't need court orders to get you out. Instead, they just change the locks, and you'll find out about it when you show up and your key doesn't work. Every time our landlord had a dispute with anyone, which was often, he'd always threaten to change the locks. He keeps demanding all this stuff for extra rent, and it's really weird because a lot of it is really old. The restaurant owner showed me a letter the landlord had served him earlier that day. I looked over the demand and read a list of expenses and snow removal and parking lot repair and common area flooring, all kinds of crap going back years. I read it all the way to the end, and there it was, the usual clause saying he was going to change the locks if the tenant didn't pay this and do that. From the wording of the demand, it looks like you've been fighting for a while. Why did you wait before consulting a lawyer? I asked one of the lawyers I know, and he said that it's hopeless. He told me the lawyer's name. It was a guy I knew with a crappy real estate practice who'd resorted to taking little legal aid cases to keep the lights on when the market tanked in '89. "Did you do something to make the landlord hate you?" I asked, because this is a bit over the top, even for our crappy landlord. "He knows I'm moving the restaurant. I think he's trying to grab as much money as possible before I go. Plus, he's giving me grief over the vault." "He won't let you take it with you?" "Are you kidding? It weighs almost 100 tons, and I don't need it. But the lease says I have to remove it, and that I also have to restore the building to what it was before there was a vault. That would cost a fortune. The jerk landlord says if I leave the vault behind when I move, he'll sue me. Send your lease up to my office and let me look it over," I said. I finished my lunch, and when I got back to the office, the lease was waiting for me. It was just as bad as the restaurant owner said. The lease was a renewal of an assignment of a renewal. The original documents, dating back to shortly after World War II, when a bank first leased the place and the vault was installed. Somehow, the landlord had suckered the restaurant into taking over a lease that left him liable to remove a bank vault at the end of the term. No big deal, I thought. The restaurant can default, and all the landlord can do is sue a shell company. But when I got to the last page of the lease, there was a guarantee clause. The restaurant owner had personally guaranteed the lease, and he was on the hook for removing a vault weighing 100 tons and then fixing the place up. It would cost a fortune. The case was hopeless, of course. That was obvious right away. But then I thought about the crappy landlord with his demands and his threats and his rent hikes, and I asked my brain to do me a solid, which it promptly did. I picked up the phone and called the restaurant owner. "I'm done for, right? You're calling me to tell me there's no way out. That's what my commercial lawyer already said, but I just thought I'd ask." Me. "I can save you, but it's gonna cost." "How much?" $5,000 in legal and another G note for the agent. "Agent? What kind of agent?" "Real estate. Send me a check, certified, and leave the rest to me." The check hit my desk in less than an hour. I went to Aaron's office. "I need a real estate agent," I said. "You buying a house?" "Nope." "Selling a house?" "Nope." By this point, I'd been sharing space with Aaron for almost 5 years, and he knew me pretty well. "You pulling one of your stunts again?" he asked. "Yep, but nothing that will get you into trouble." "I know a guy." Aaron knew all kinds of guys, and that's one of the reasons he eventually got disbarred. But he knew a guy, and he gave me the agent's name and number, and the next day I paid the agent a visit. I told him what I needed, and we agreed to terms. I gave him some papers and the cash for his fee. A few days later, I was again at the vault for lunch. The owner saw me walk in and greeted himself. "The landlord's here," he said. "Why?" "For lunch, and to be a jerk. Let's sit in the vault room so I don't have to look at his face." He took me to the vault room, and with the door almost completely closed, we had a consultation while we ate pasta and drank red wine. "We're making demand on the landlord," I said, munching on my spaghetti. "Demand? What are we demanding?" I pulled a document out of my briefcase, and I passed it to him while I sipped my wine. "We're demanding that the jerk landlord release all the restaurant equipment, all the fixtures, the ovens, the freezers, the ventilation, everything you need to run a restaurant." "The lease exempts all that stuff. He can't stop me from taking what I want. The only thing that matters is the vault, and of course I don't want that." I shook my head. "You need the vault," I said, "and we're demanding that he release the bank vault as well. We're insisting that he let you take it out within 7 business days." "You think you can beat the landlord with reverse psychology? You think if you treat him like a 2-year-old, you can manipulate him into doing what you want?" "We'll find out soon enough. He's had the demand for a couple of days now." The restaurant owner dropped his wine glass and it shattered on the marble floor. "You already gave it to him?" the restaurant owner said. He got up, swung open the vault door, and called for the waiter to clean up the mess. "Let's see what the landlord has to say," I told him, and we walked over to the landlord's table. The landlord was a big, beefy man with a big appetite. He sat alone, eating wolfishly and with his hands. "My client needs an answer today," I said. The landlord looked up at me as he chewed noisily. "I'm the vault's lawyer," I said. "I gave you a demand the other day. My client needs an answer right now. He needs the vault for a new place, and he's got to make arrangements." "Your client can forget about the bank vault," he said, wiping his massive, greasy hands on an already soiled napkin. "But you can't do that," I said. My shock was feigned, but the restaurant owner's jaw dropped for real. The landlord laughed at us. "I'm the landlord. I can do what I want." "I'm gonna need that in writing, because my client might sue," I said. "Sue all you like," the landlord told me. "Sue till you're blue in the face." He told me that I'd have a formal response by day's end, and then he told me to go away and let him finish his lunch. When the letter arrived from the landlord, claiming ownership over the bank vault, I brought it downstairs and showed it to my client. "How the heck did you do that?" "Trade secret," I said. The following month, the restaurant moved out and the place was empty, and that was too bad because I had always liked eating at the vault. Now the restaurant was in a new location 20 minutes away. They called the new place The Vault, and they had preserved the vibe of the old place. It was very similar, except they didn't have their bank vault. The bank vault, all 100 tons of it, was where it had always been, in the basement of the building where I rented space. I showed up for work a little after that, and Aaron collared me. "The landlord's looking for you," he said. "Oh yeah? About what?" "He's really angry. He said his deal fell through." Deal? He was supposed to rent the place downstairs to a new tenant, a bank or a credit union or something like that. They were supposed to come in to sign the lease, but they didn't show up. And what's that got to do with me? I said to Aaron. And I said the same thing again to the landlord when he managed to track me down a couple of days later. I know you were behind this. I know it was you. The offer from the agent, it was all BS. Just a trick to make me keep the vault so that your client could sneak out of the place and leave that bank vault behind. I'm gonna sue. If you're looking for counsel, I think I'm gonna have to declare a conflict. I'm gonna sue the restaurant and that agent, and I'm gonna sue you. He stormed off. But the landlord didn't sue. Of course he didn't. He didn't have a contract to sue on, only a vague letter of intent that I had drafted, enough to hook a greedy landlord who was used to having his way. The offer he had received was non-binding and capable of acceptance without the signing of a formal lease, which of course never got signed. When I left Aaron's place a year later, the downstairs was still unoccupied, with a sad "for rent" sign sitting in the window, starting to look faded. Am I the jerk for telling my pregnant 19-year-old daughter she needs to move out ASAP? My daughter, Rose, who's 19, was always a smart girl. She did well in school and got a full ride to a great school that's local. She's been living with me and going to school, and she's doing well. She got this new boyfriend a few months ago who I don't like. I can smell the BS. He constantly lets her down, but covers it up with a big smile and grand promises. Despite my warnings, they're still dating, and now she's pregnant. I offered to pay to get rid of it and take a few days off work to help her recover. She said no. She's going to marry her boyfriend, and they'll be one big happy family. He wants to move into my house, and she'll drop out of school while he works to support them. He's a bartender who doesn't go to college. I laughed at this idea, which made her mad. She told me that since he can't move in, I'll need to step up and help with the baby more. Y'all, she has always been a very sensible kid. I don't know where this all came from. I flat out told her that if she thinks she's grown enough to have and raise a kid and get married, then she needs to move out soon and manage being an adult with the father. I raised the one kid I wanted to. I do not want any more kids living in my home. I told her I'd pay for diapers here and there and I'd still visit her, but this baby is 0% my responsibility. If she chooses adoption, which I'm pretty sure she wouldn't, I'd be willing to help her navigate that. She won't talk to me. My husband, her stepdad, is staying out of this, but thinks I could help more. I told him he's welcome to go over and babysit for her, and that shut him up. Am I the jerk? Edit. I had my daughter when I was 19. I was married to her father who was in the military. I still graduated college on time at the age of 22, and everything worked out well for us, until he passed in the service. The fact that it worked out okay for me is clouding my daughter's judgment, I think. Her trashy boyfriend can't even offer her or her kid health insurance. It's a completely different scenario. Also, so many of you are suggesting that I still let her live with me and keep the baby. That's not happening. I do not want a baby in my home, period. And I'm not babysitting either. I'll do normal grandparent stuff like show up to birthday parties and buy gifts here and there, but that's it. Let her know how much car insurance is going to be if she's not under your policy. That number alone was enough to make my son stay in our home and save up his money before he moved out. I have a friend who was in the same situation with her daughter about 16 years ago. They let her stay, but told her it was the one and only time, and they set all sorts of parameters. Now, 16 years later, that same daughter and her now 5 kids still live with them. They've put them out several times to try and make it on their own, but it breaks their hearts to see their kids not be taken care of. The kids always beg to come back. It's an awful situation. Not the jerk. If she's doing grown-up things and making grown-up decisions, she needs to learn how to be an adult. She wants live-in childcare and complete financial support from you for her kid and her husband. They want a free ride with no responsibility to themselves or their kid. They'll never move out if you allow this. Am I the jerk for not respecting my roommate's curfew? I'm in a fight with my roommate, and my friend suggested that I get additional opinions on here. Some background. I'm a freshman in college living in a dorm and got a randomly assigned roommate. We live very different lifestyles. I like to stay up late and sleep in late, and she likes to go to bed early and wake up early. At the beginning of the year, she told me she likes to go to bed early and she's a light sleeper, and I told her I like to stay up late, and we made an agreement that she could turn out the light at any point and I would be quiet after that. She goes to bed at like 9 to 11, and I often get ready for bed and lay in bed at these times out of respect. However, there are generally 2 to 3 nights a week, one of which is a weekday, that I stay up late and out past this time. I keep the light off and do nothing more than crawl into bed when I return home, around midnight to 3 a.m. About 3 weeks ago, my roommate told me she doesn't like me staying out late because it affects her sleep and that she wants me back by midnight. My friends have made fun of me since because out of respect for her, I have, except for a few exceptions, left parties, study sessions, and hangouts early to get home on time. On Monday night, I was out playing board games with friends and I lost track of time. I noticed it was 12:30, and out of respect for her, I decided to pull an all-nighter with my friends in the common room. I returned that morning at 8:15 to get ready and shower because I had a meeting at 9. However, I got an angry text later that day, calling me out for returning at 8:15 despite me doing my best to remain quiet and even not returning home at an unreasonable hour, as I would have been up at that time anyway. I responded and apologized for waking her up, but explained that I stayed out all night for her and I did nothing wrong. I also explained that while I was willing to compromise and be back most nights at midnight, as long as I was courteous, there would be nights that I would come back later. I got a message last night that she had scheduled a meeting with our RA to mediate, and I honestly want to know if I'm in the wrong, if she's in the wrong, or if it's just a bad situation. Any advice would be welcome. Thanks. Did you guys fill out a sheet about roommate assignments and what you're looking for? We did fill out a roommate assignment sheet, and I put that I like to stay up late. However, they must not have prioritized it. Why did OP post here? My friends in the past have expressed that they believe she's trying to control me and that I should be able to stay out as late as I want. However, my friends all like to stay out like me, and I wanted to get some diverse opinions because I understand where my roommate is coming from. Edit. Thank you to everyone who responded. It really gave me a reality check and the confidence to stand up for myself. In general, my roommate is a very nice person, and besides a few minor other issues, we get along well. But I do recognize now that her requests are unreasonable. Next week is my spring break, and we've scheduled the meeting for the following week, so I will provide an update then. To those of you who suggested a room change, I would be fine if my roommate changed rooms. However, it would be difficult for me to move. I have a minor disability, which would pose challenges to moving my stuff, and my family lives in a different state. So while they would help, I don't want to ask that of them, especially since the school year is almost over. Update. I met with my roommate and the RA today. He told her that she couldn't set a time for me to return, but had us set specific expectations for when I return home late, like no opening and closing drawers, turning on lights, and closing the door gently. Things I was already doing, but I will be extra mindful of in the future. I told her that I appreciated her as a roommate and felt bad about how my different lifestyle affected her and would be mindful of coming back in. But like the RA said, I would be coming back on my own timeline. I appreciate the support. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that her family can't stay at my beach house anymore, even though they helped build it? I'm 31 and my husband is 38. We live about 3 hours away from my sister-in-law's family, her husband, and their 2 kids. A few years ago, my husband and I bought a really rundown property on the coast, a couple hours away from where we live. I wanted to make a project of fixing it up. My husband liked the idea and was happy to support it, but it was mostly my project. I really put a lot of effort into fixing it as cheaply as possible, went over and stayed there for many nights, and literally did a lot of the construction. My husband came and helped about half the time. I sourced recycled wood and such, so almost all the materials are found in some way. Once it was partially finished, I thought I could enlist my sister-in-law's help. So I told her about this project and asked if she wanted to come stay for a few days with her family and help finish up the work. She brought her kids and husband and slept out on the deck and did things like painting and building some furniture, etc. When it was finished, it was really beautiful. We started renting it out on Airbnb and have had good success with that so far. I did say that my sister-in-law's family could come stay anytime because they helped with it. There's 2 parts to the house that have separate kitchens and bathrooms, so we've kept the top for us and sister-in-law's family and the bottom for Airbnb. Last week they were there at the same time as some paid guests were. I got a complaint from the guests afterward that my sister-in-law's kids had made fun of their kids and that my sister-in-law told them that this was their house, so the guests don't get to dictate how their kids behave. I asked my sister-in-law about this, and she said that their kids wanted to play with the guest kids on the beach, and the guest kids tried to ask her kids to leave them alone, but they wouldn't. They were playing volleyball, and her kids were much better, and rightfully proud of it. I got upset and told her that she wasn't allowed to stay there anymore if she can't be considerate of the fact that this is also a business, and you can't be a jerk to customers or anyone. Now she says that I'm a jerk because I promised she could stay anytime. Not the jerk. You said she couldn't stay there if she can't be considerate. She took that as a ban, when all you were saying is you and your kids need to be considerate of the Airbnb guests. You promised sister-in-law she could stay there anytime, and she can. That doesn't mean she doesn't have to be a polite guest, and she is your guest. She and her kids do not own the property, and they need to stop acting like it. You're the jerk for running an Airbnb. Am I the jerk for canceling dinner while my husband was at work? Context. My husband owns a coffee shop that usually closes at 10 p.m., but sometimes he would close it earlier if he wants to. Tonight, my 24 female husband, who's 25 male, told me that we should go out for dinner since we didn't have food at home. I said yes and suggested that we go out around 9 p.m. and told him I'll put the kids to bed at 8 p.m. with the house clean and everything. He agreed, and by 8:30 both kids were already asleep and the house was clean. I messaged him that I'm ready and if we could go now. He said that he still has a customer, and I was fine with it and mentioned something about the food. However, he didn't respond. Then 9:30 rolled around, so I messaged him again. Nothing. At this point, I was starving and getting hangrier by the minute. I kept messaging and calling him, but no response. I was getting upset because he does this all the time. I would usually be fine, but tonight I was hungry. Plus, the kids woke up. I messaged him that I was going to just fry an egg and this dinner is over. He can go out to eat alone. That's when he started messaging me again, telling me that he was busy and he could just order me food. But I told him to forget it because I'm not going to starve myself again waiting for him. He got upset and said that I should be more understanding because he was working, but he does this so much that I don't want to deal with it anymore. Am I the jerk? I'm not mad that we didn't go out. It was the principle of just telling me if we were going out to eat or not. Edit to add. I didn't mention a lot of things that y'all want info about, so here goes. Who was looking after the kids? My dad lives with us. He usually looks after them when I'm not present. What did the kids and grandpa eat if there wasn't any food? The dinner I cooked earlier that night. I didn't cook anything for myself and hubby because he wanted to go out to eat. Why not have a snack? I did, but it wasn't cutting it because I was an exhausted mom that needs more than just a snack at this point. Plus, if I eat any more, I would have lost my appetite. Why not just go to his place and bring food? We live in a small town. The shop was located in a neighborhood that's unsafe to walk in at night. I don't have any means of transportation, and doing a 20-minute walk isn't really a safe option. He said he was busy with a customer. He said that around 8:30. Dinner date was 9, which was the time that the customer left. However, relatives came by and he wanted to entertain them, but he didn't bother to tell me about that until 10:30. Why suggest dinner at 9 when the shop closes at 10? Don't plan a date during work hours. I agree, poor planning. But earlier in our conversation, he was complaining that it was a slow night and should just close the shop early. What do I mean by he does this all the time? I mean he would make a plan and not go through with it, and that's not just when he's working. He would make plans with me, then be out with friends or family later. When our time comes to do something, he would stop responding and would respond much later. Ungrateful for being a jerk that he had to work late while I just sat my spoiled behind waiting for food? I'm going to ruin the business with my attitude? Where did y'all get that from? I was fully capable of feeding myself, but he insisted on the dinner together. Also, why would I want to ruin a business I initially funded? I also work, and I'm the main provider. I didn't think this info was relevant. Y'all are wild for making that assumption. The part that I was upset was not giving me a quick update, not the part that he was still working. Not the jerk. If he can close the shop early, then why didn't he do that? When you called him at 8:30 and said you were ready, he could have turned around the sign on the door to say closed and just let customers who were already in the shop finish up their coffee, and then he could have closed the shop in peace. It sounded like he made plans with you, told you he was closing the shop, then he just didn't. On the other hand, if he can't close the shop, why didn't he just say that so you could make your dinner earlier than 9:30? Not the jerk. While I was leaning towards no jerks here, because sometimes stuff happens. It sounds like this happens often, him working later than planned. Also, it's rude to expect you to wait for hours without any communication and then blow up on you when you got tired of waiting and just ate. I, for one, would not be happy about waiting until 9 or 10 to eat dinner. I like to eat by 7 at the latest. Not the jerk. He offered to take you out for dinner. He agreed on 9 p.m. with you. Then some family members rocked up and he just forgot that you were waiting at home? Yeah, this one's on him. Am I the jerk for lying to my wife about my son's job because he didn't want her knowing he works retail? I'm 51, male. My wife, who's 50, has said multiple times that she would never work jobs like retail or food service. Not only that, but she's heavily implied, even though she tries to deny this by saying it was just a joke, that this principle extends to how her kids, nieces, and nephews should feel about those jobs, and how she wouldn't be able to bear it if they found themselves in that circumstance. She knows nothing about the current labor market because she's a stay-at-home mom who grew up with a hospital executive father and a mom whose family owned a boutique hotel and a lot of successful restaurants. I myself know very little about the job market because I've been a doctor at the same hospital for my entire career and worked weekends for my mother-in-law's family before that, mostly to prove to my in-laws I had good work ethic. My son supposedly did everything right. He's 28 and has a CS degree, went to a flagship state school, and got good grades and internships. He was laid off from a Bay Area tech company 2 years ago. He has a very difficult relationship with my wife and has been on and off with him not speaking to her, but says that he could never cut her off completely because he loves her. My other son is a dentist, and my daughter is in her first year working in family law. My wife later got a master's degree but never used it. However, education is very important to her. My 28-year-old told me not to tell his mom that he was laid off, so I did not because I know that my wife would say that he should be swimming with offers as a CS major, and that if not, he was putting employers off. I am also going to tentatively give him the benefit of the doubt that the market is as bad as he says it is, that people who say you need to put in thousands of applications or you're doing it wrong are in the right. Long story short, he got a job at Starbucks a month after being laid off. He then got a retail job 3 months later, and as of right now, he's in a more managerial position there. He hates it and wants to get a tech job. He sent me dozens of automated rejection emails, screenshots of his application lineup, etc. Even though he took a job where he didn't expect his mom or her friends to shop, the inevitable happened. A friend of a relative ran into him and mentioned it to my wife. She freaked out and knew from my reaction that I knew all along. So she blew up at me and my son. My son hung up on her, and after, she said he needs to move home and apply to corporate jobs full-time. He said he would never go back to living off of her money. My wife started accusing me of giving her a panic attack and admitted that she was heartbroken I led her to believe my son still worked at the large tech company. She then said lying was wrong, and what's even worse is we had more than enough money to support our son being unemployed, yet I chose for him to work retail and not tell her. Am I the jerk for keeping his secret because I knew what would happen? Your son is absolutely right about the state of the tech labor market. There have been thousands of tech employees laid off in the last 2 years. Your wife is a horrible snob and frankly, a terrible person. Not the jerk. So your wife's family's money comes from their service industry businesses, but for some reason, to work in such an industry is the lowest of the low in her opinion? What does she think paid for her education then? Your wife is the jerk and also a huge hypocrite. Am I the jerk for telling her that we are never becoming serious if she stays friends with her ex? I, 29 male, have been seeing this girl who's 26 for about 3 months. We met at a bar when a mutual friend of ours introduced her to me. She's beautiful, quick-witted, and confident, so I was instantly attracted to her. We hit it off immediately and spent quite a lot of time together over the next few weeks. In that time, we learned a lot about each other, and I also discovered that she was in a 6-year relationship that ended recently. They ended up breaking up amicably, and they are still good friends. In fact, they still hang out, although she swears it's just platonic. They go out to dinner together, catch up over drinks, etc. She said he helped her immensely during a tough period in her life and that they were still very close, despite the split. I said cool, as I didn't care about that since we were just casually seeing each other. About 2 weeks after that, she brings up the possibility of us being more than just casual hookup partners and being in an actual relationship. I told her that I would definitely be down for that if she cuts her ex out of her life. She started laughing, and I said, no, it's not a joke. I'm not dating a woman who's going out on dates with their ex still. I don't mind at all if you have a healthy, non-toxic relationship with your ex, but catching up and still communicating frequently? I'm not putting up with that. I don't go out to dinner and do back-to-back shots with any of my exes so I think it's completely fair for me to ask you to do the same. She said that there's no way that she's going to just never talk to her ex again. I said, okay, we can stay casual then. Fine by me. She said cool, but then 2 minutes later started going off on me for being insecure. I said, I'm not insecure, I just have certain boundaries. If you're not going to cater to them, we can just keep things as they are. I've got absolutely no issue with that. We ended up getting into a huge fight about it. She kept reassuring me that what she had with him was in the past, and I kept saying that I don't care how much you reassure me. If you want a relationship with me, you're going to cut ties with them. Dude, not saying my story would happen again, but it was like this exact situation. They were in a relationship for years, still hung out as just friends, but I 100% believed her that it was nothing serious, so I let it go. Even ended up hanging out with him once. Well, eventually she got very depressed and said it's over because she's going to move back in with him because he was her comfort. This is your boundary and she should respect it. Personally, while I think someone can remain in platonic friendship with their ex, still going out on dates to catch up is way too much. Not the jerk, but you are an idiot. You met this chick in a bar and started casually hooking up with her, and for some reason you think she will actually make a good serious partner and respect you, not cheat on you, cut off her exes? Men need to learn that you will not find a good partner in the bars or clubs, and you dudes wonder why you always end up getting cheated on. You're asking this woman to stop contacting someone she's known for probably more than 6 years because you don't trust her. If you can't trust someone enough to be friends with their ex and not cheat on you, then don't date them. You're the jerk. Instead of having a conversation about needs and boundaries and seeing what you can both work out, you demand she cut someone she cares about out of her life. Absolutely toxic and disrespectful behavior. Good for her though, she deserves better. Not the jerk, but honestly bro, it kinda sucks to put somebody in that kind of position because, drumroll, you are insecure. Mature adults generally remain friends with their exes to varying degrees. You may be missing out on a great relationship with a great woman because you can't handle that. That's your cross to bear, I guess. Gonna have to disagree with you. In my experience, mature adults do not maintain relationships with exes. Wait until you get married, have kids, and see how much time you have left that you want to be wasting on your ex-boyfriends or girlfriends. If your answer is more than 0, that doesn't sound like mature adult territory. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Steal furniture? Almost lose your job. So my dad owns a house that he's been renting for some time now. The tenants that lived there were for the most part decent people who my dad thought were trustworthy. That all changed about 2 months into the tenancy when the tenant refused to pay the month's rent. My dad showed some leniency and gave them another month to pay up what was owed, but they didn't pay a thing. By this point, my dad, frustrated by the whole situation and being 2 months out of rent money, offered them a deal. Leave the house ASAP and then only pay half the money owed. They countered with a different agreement. They would leave the house in a clean state with all of their furniture left behind as compensation. My dad, wanting to just be done with them, agreed. Cue to when my dad gets to the house, finding the place in a mess with none of the furniture left behind, including the furniture that belonged to my dad in the first place. The 2 sofas that my dad owned were left behind, but they were trashed and left in the shed. When my dad confronted them, asking for them to pay up the full amount that the furniture was worth, he was met with a promise of payment after 2 weeks, which he didn't believe, and when he requested they pay earlier, he was met with, "Good luck getting your money," followed by laughing emojis. This made my dad angry, and he decided that he wasn't going to let this slide. My dad knew that the tenant was a Christian pastor of a church, and his son also had some job related to the church. My dad contacted the church and explained everything from how they hadn't paid him rent money to stealing the furniture and trashing the place. The church was somewhat interested in this behavior. The next day, my dad gets an angry phone call from the tenant's son going off on him and asking him what he thought he was doing contacting the church, saying he was being unfair. My dad hung up on him, only for him to attempt to ring 10 more times after he hung up. From what we pieced together, the church had told the pastor that if he didn't settle things with my dad, him and his son would lose their jobs. My dad received the full amount for the furniture that same day and agreed to back off. My dad later said it was never about the money, but the way this guy treated him and his values. My dad, being a Christian himself, was disappointed. I grammar checked someone's college paper And now he's blaming me for his failure. Since my high school days, I've been correcting some of my friends' papers. I mostly only check the grammar, but I also do some minor adjustments. For instance, I had one friend who didn't understand the concept of paragraphs until college. I'm not a professional by any means, but my work has been good enough that my friends have recommended me to some of their peers. I graduated college in 2019. I'm not a teacher or a student, and I don't charge anyone anything. Whenever I agree to do this, it's purely for fun. However, I've been doing it less and less lately as I now have an actual job, a husband, and a kid. Also, almost all of my friends have graduated. One of the exceptions is a close friend of mine who recently decided to get a second degree. His class had a pretty big paper to deliver last week, and he recommended my services to a classmate of his. I was put in contact with a classmate, I'll call him Derek, an 18-year-old who, based on our interactions through the phone, seemed like a chill person. In retrospect, I'm pretty sure he was just on something. The paper was due last Monday at 7:30, right before the start of their class, and he promised me he'd send it to me for me to grammar check at least 24 hours before. On Monday at 1 a.m., Derek finally sent me the paper. As promised, I swallowed my frustration and got to work. The paper was 3 pages long. As I read it, I noticed that at least half of it was very obviously written by your friend and mine, ChatGPT. It was bad enough that I almost immediately realized the information was wrong. I think the AI confused 2 different people, which derailed much of what came next, even though I only had a basic understanding of what the paper was about. But it was 1 a.m., and the grammar for that half was fine, so I didn't touch it. I only corrected the atrocious grammar that was present everywhere else. I sent him the finished paper about an hour later, and he didn't even thank me. Derek got his grade back yesterday. His paper got a 2 out of 10, and his teacher apparently told him that he was lucky to even get that. His response was to send me a text that said something along the lines of, "What did you do? Weren't you supposed to correct it?" I reminded Derek that I corrected grammatical errors, not information. He'd been informed of that several times by both me and my friend before I agreed to help. He rudely continued to text me that I should have corrected the rest of it anyway, since I could tell the information was inaccurate. So Derek, who relied on AI to write half of a very important paper, is blaming me for the fact that his teacher saw right through it. And judging by some of his texts, I think he expects me to rewrite parts of his paper. The nerve of this guy. I get it, I was a student once, and I don't miss it. But I'd never treat anyone like this, especially someone who had just done me a favor. I'm seriously considering not doing grammar checks anymore. Not the jerk, but this is a sign you need people to sign some boilerplate language before you help them. 1. You have the right to refuse to help at any time. 2. You need 24 hours to review. If the paper is due in less time than that, you will not review it. 3. You will not review obviously ChatGPT work. 4. You are only checking grammar. 5. No guarantees of grades, or something like that. Personally, I would have rejected it the moment I saw it wasn't written by the student. Good luck. Why the heck are you reviewing the work of others at 1 a.m. in the morning? Anyone expecting a stranger to fix their paper at 1 a.m. in the morning is going to act like this. My sister demands I pay for her vacation, but she won't agree to babysit. My 32 male family is planning a vacation for this summer. Both my parents, my older brother, and my sister-in-law, my younger sister, Camila, who's 22, and my husband, my 2 kids, who are 10 and 8, and I are all planning to go. We're all planning to stay in a resort for 2 weeks. This will obviously be a bit expensive, at least $2,000 per person, and that is an enormous amount of money in my currency. Camila is in her last semester of university and will start a full-time job in August. Right now, she's not working and lives with my parents, not passing judgment on her for being unemployed because my brother and I went through the same at her age. Camila called me last week to ask if we could pay for her ticket and accommodation. My parents would pay for food and activities. My husband and I can comfortably afford our own family, but adding Camila would put financial pressure on us. I told her that I would discuss it with my husband and then I would call her. So my husband and I agreed that we would be willing to pay for her if she would babysit our kids on certain occasions. Of course, not every day and without notice, but at least twice a week for 2 hours for 2 months. She would basically be the replacement for our current babysitter. Anyway, I texted her basically saying what I just wrote, and she replied, "Absolutely not." So I called her to ask why she was so against this arrangement, which I think benefits both of us. She gets to go on vacation, and we have a babysitter we trust and don't spend more than our monthly budget.
Kamala said that we were manipulating her into doing unpaid labor for us and forcing her to say yes because neither our brother or parents could afford to pay for her. She also said that she's way too busy with her last semester of uni and finals. I told her that she could do all of her school stuff in our house. My kids are very well behaved and need very little supervision, but she still said that she wouldn't do it. So I then told her I was very sorry, but if she didn't accept, then we couldn't pay for her to go on vacation. So now she's incredibly mad at me. But now my mom is also angry with me because she wants to have a family vacation and she knows my husband and I do have the money to pay for Kamala and family helps family, which I agree with. But I believe that help must be reciprocal, and right now, Kamala is not reciprocating that help. My brother and dad just want to settle this down. They are not taking sides. Not the jerk. Unpaid labor? Did she miss the part where her pay was a $2,000 holiday? This is a win-win for both of you. In fact, she comes out slightly more on top from the whole deal. So, family helps family only when it comes to paying for expensive vacations, but not for childcare? Gotcha. Your sister is living on another planet. Not the jerk. Not the jerk at all. Your sister is a piece of work and spurning an incredibly generous offer. Her labor is far from unpaid. Looking at your arrangement, you're asking for approximately 35 hours of labor in return for a $2,000 trip. That's close to $60 an hour. That would be an amazing offer for a 22-year-old in the US, and I'm guessing from the my currency answer that you live in a lower cost of living country than the US, where the offer is even more generous. You're not the jerk at all. Your sister sucks. You're the jerk, especially your family. It's rude that nobody was thinking about her financial situation when planning this vacation. You and the family expected this problem to solve itself by some magical means, and now you act surprised. She's not entitled to your money, and it's also putting you in an uncomfortable place. Because of this, I think the offer's reasonable, but it's forced, leaving her with little choice, and I can see why she's annoyed. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my gender reveal cupcakes? I, female 22, found out last week my baby's gender, and it's a girl. My family are excited, and I decided to do a small gender reveal over the Easter weekend. I had this planned for Saturday, so a few days before, I asked a small local business if she could please make 12 cupcakes with pink and blue icing on top and pink icing in the middle. She agreed and said they would be ready to collect Friday evening. The plan was to pick up the cupcakes on Friday, invite friends and family over Saturday, and give some guests a cupcake which would reveal the gender. I only invited a few guests as my apartment is fairly small, and I didn't want to do a large gender reveal anyway, just something cute and fun. Plus, everyone loves cupcakes. So Friday evening came. The small business owner, Claire, gave me her address to collect the cakes from her, said that they would cost £25 and they're ready to collect whenever. I drove to her apartment and knocked on the door. She greeted me there with a box of cupcakes and they looked amazing. They were exactly how I'd imagined them and I thanked her for them. She gave me the box, but just as she did, her large pet dog came running up to me, barking and jumped at me, knocking the box of cupcakes all over the floor. Claire apologized and shut the dog inside. He was still barking and jumping at the door. She said it's because he gets excited when people come and visit, but he wouldn't have hurt me as he's friendly. At this point, I didn't know the damage to the cupcakes as the box landed upside down. I picked it up and the cakes were ruined. The icing had smashed all over the box and some cakes had spilled out onto the ground. Claire looked horrified as I understand she spent a few hours making them for me. She apologized and said she could remake them for free, but they wouldn't be ready until Sunday. I said, unfortunately, I'm expecting my guests tomorrow, and Sunday's no good, as I already had other plans. I explained I wouldn't be paying for these cupcakes as they were inedible and ruined by her dog. We agreed payment upon receiving the goods, and since I never received them, I wouldn't be paying. She said that I should still pay, as she had to buy ingredients for the cakes, and the cost of eggs has gone up, meaning she would be out of pocket. I said if she had control of her dog, then they wouldn't have been dropped, and I'm sorry, but again, I wouldn't be paying. I got in my car and left without the cupcakes. I still had guests attend on Saturday. I announced the gender in person rather than with some cupcakes, but it was still nice spending time with friends and family. My family were all happy, but my sister-in-law said I should have still paid for the cupcakes as she accepted it was her fault and offered to remake them for me. I personally don't think I should have had to pay for them, but now I'm feeling slightly guilty as I understand it's a small business and a loss of profit would affect her a lot harder than a larger business. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Why on earth would you need to pay for something you didn't receive? I know it would be nice to help out Claire a little bit if you guys were friends, but if this is just some lady, then no. Not the jerk. She's a business owner. She needs to act professional. Having a wild, uncontrollable dog jumping all over your customers and knocking your product out of their hands as they're trying to pick it up is not acting like a professional. This has nothing to do with the cost of eggs. She knows her dog doesn't behave and therefore should crate it or lock it in another room when she's meeting customers. No way should you pay a dime for those cupcakes you couldn't use. If she could have remade them for you that day and delivered them to your house, sure, but you had no use for them a week later. Her fault, so she eats the cost. You're not the jerk in this situation, but baby gender reveals are endlessly useless and stupid. Just have a baby shower. Why do you care so much about other people's decisions if they have no effect on you? If people want to have gender reveal parties, then there's nothing wrong with gender reveal parties, and you shouldn't be demanding other people adopt your lifestyle. Not the jerk, and I'm still trying to figure out why this gender reveal garbage is necessary. No one really cares except the mom, dad, and maybe the grandparents. Maybe. You're the jerk. Just because your baby is born looking a certain way does not mean you will know their gender. It's 2023, and you people still don't realize this. It honestly just makes me sad that you think you can decide whether they will be male or female. It's not up to you, and it never was. You remind me so much of my parents. Don't be surprised when they grow up and go no contact with you. My wife keeps pressuring me to copy stuff that she sees on TikTok. I'm 29, male. My wife, who's 28, and I have been together for about 10 years, married for 2. And while not the most affectionate person in public, I am quite affectionate at home when it's just us. Lots of hugs and kisses, you name it. Both our love languages is quality time and physical touch, courtesy of her research. In the past few months, she's joined the TikTok Reels and wants to copy things she sees people do and ask their significant other in Reels or in movies, like when guys lift your chin or when a girl asks something to her spouse or boyfriend. So we'll be eating dinner and I'll be on my phone or working on my laptop, and there will be something in a video she sends me or on a show or movie we're watching, and she'll comment on it as it relates to us or want me to do something to her. So this morning she was watching a reel in bed, and it was a man running his hand through his partner's hair. She asked me to do it, and I said no. I might have been a little frustrated because I was running late for work and asked her, "Why are you acting like this? We're not in a movie. Do I ask you to do this kind of silly stuff?" I could tell it made her upset and she didn't press it again, and I didn't think anything of it until later when she wasn't texting me like she usually does during the day. I text her asking her what she wants for dinner, and she says she doesn't care. Then she says that she still heard about this morning about how I was a jerk to her and invalidated how she felt. Am I the jerk for telling her that this isn't a movie and asking her why she was behaving like this? We hug and kiss all the time, so I feel like she's copying stuff just to get a reaction from me. Edit. Bought my wife a cupcake and her favorite tea and went home after work. She arrived half an hour after me and pouted at me when she saw my peace offerings. We hugged and I apologized for being a jerk this morning. She apologized for making me feel uncomfortable. I asked her if she wanted me to do things like that to her, and she said sometimes, but she admitted that she sometimes missed the butterflies when we first dated. Surprise, I didn't connect the dots that one of our friends just got into a new relationship and has been over the moon about all their cute moments. So I asked her to tell me all of the TikTok things she's watched that she likes, and she shyly showed me all of the ones she bookmarked. So yeah, gonna make the lady happy and sprinkle her weeks with some, and we'll take into account how to keep our life spicy. I love her, and for all you folks trying to hit on her, she's taken. Get out of here. Thanks to all the folks who were kind enough to explain my mistakes and TikTok stuff to me, the good and the bad. She's asking you to show her love, dude. Who cares where she's getting the ideas? Why aren't you interested in listening to what your wife wants from you? You're the jerk. My girlfriend broke up with me because she saw me cry. So I, 19 male, and my girlfriend, Stacy, who's 26, we go to the same college. She worked a couple of years before getting her degree, and we are in similar majors. She grew up in the Deep South and moved here with her mom and sisters when she was 16. She was fairly moderate in her beliefs though, so there was no issue until recently. About 3 weeks ago, I was taking the metal stairs down from my apartment with my girlfriend and some friends, and I slipped because they were slick. I fell down and broke my leg. I had never had a major medical issue before, and it was the worst pain I had ever experienced. As I was screaming and crying in pain, my friend called 911 and I was taken to the hospital. I fractured my bone when I fell and I was in the hospital for 2 days. Stacy left the first night and didn't come back. When I was released, I asked her to live with me for a few days to help me out. She reluctantly agreed, and she seemed distant through the first week. The next Sunday, Stacy sat me down and said she wanted to break up with me. I was devastated and asked her why. She said that she couldn't get the image of me crying on the stairs out of her head, and she didn't see me as a real man anymore. For context, I'm 6'2", I go to the gym, and I play lacrosse for my local adult team. Again, I was devastated and I begged her to stay. She said this is exactly why she was leaving, and she thought I was stronger than this. I was destroyed and I didn't do anything for a week while I recovered from my leg in the breakup. Doctors said rest for 2 weeks. By the end of the week, I got texts from my friends saying how sorry they were that me and Stacy didn't work out and that they hoped I had made the right choice. I was confused, and my friends told me that Stacy had said that we both decided to break up because we wanted different things. I corrected them and told them exactly why she broke up with me. Apparently, that news spread through our friend group and everyone is upset with her. She texted me to say that I'm a jerk and that I ruined her life, and why couldn't I just go along with it? Some of her friends also called me a jerk, and now I don't know who's in the right. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She broke up with you because she didn't like the way you reacted to a medical issue. It's pretty ignorant of her to judge you for something like that. Everyone has a different threshold for pain, and if she was a good partner, she would have supported you instead of making you feel bad. And the whole men don't cry BS is just that, total BS. You deserve to be with someone who supports you, not someone who tears you down. She wanted to keep her reason a secret because she knew that she's a jerk for breaking up with you over that. You don't have to protect her feelings since she clearly didn't give 2 flying hoots about your feelings. I hope you have a quick recovery, OP. Not the jerk. Bud, there's a reason she could only get a 19-year-old. No man would deal with her BS. She knows she was being unreasonable, and that's why she wanted you to lie. Everything that's happening to her is on her and not you. She is an absolutely horrible person, and you shouldn't talk to her ever again. Not the jerk. She treated you poorly, then lied about it, then got mad at you for being honest. You're the jerk. Let's see here. Cries like a baby when you fell down the stairs. Check. Cried and begged her to stay with you when she dumped you. Check. Bro, high-value dudes don't cry when a chick breaks up. You tell her, okay, cool, and go on to the next one. They don't want you to be desperate for them. They want you to have options and choose them. Guess you don't know how life works yet because you're 19. And bro, don't believe these comments about how it's okay to be a crybaby in front of your girl. These people on Reddit have no idea what they're talking about. And in real life, the moment you cry like a little baby in front of your girlfriend, she will lose all respect for you. But go ahead and listen to these Reddit idiots instead of me, the dude who makes $80K a year coaching men on how to be successful with women. $80K a year? Reddit boy, I think we picked the wrong niche. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend? Please let us know. If Reddit boy cried in front of me, I'd be like, "It's okay, little guy," and pat him on the head. I hate you, Karen. My husband's new female friend sent a text that has me worried. Am I just being silly? So I'll start by saying I'm generally quite a secure person, and I never felt like I had any issues around this until I read a message sent to my husband yesterday, and I'm kind of spiraling now. The backstory. My husband does downhill biking. He's done this ever since he was very young, and he knows his stuff, and he's out there every day. He generally rides with the same group of guys, but they mostly stick to weekends. My husband goes out every day of the week, luckily, because his job allows him to. If he's out on his own, generally weekdays, and the dogs are free, he'll take the dogs. They love it. So around 6 months ago, he was out in the morning with the dogs and ended up coming home earlier than usual. While he was out, he found this girl who fell off and had badly hurt her arm and wrist. As you can imagine, he's done the same numerous times. He knew exactly what to do and where to go to get seen quicker. He got her to the car park, packed the dogs and bikes up, and took her to the GP who referred her to the hospital, and he came home, all good. Around a week after this, one of the guys he rides with sent him a screenshot of a post in a Facebook group that was made for people specifically who build and maintain bike trails. It went something like this. I'm looking for someone called, insert my husband's name, who helped me last week when I fell and got me to the hospital. He drove, my husband's truck, and had 3 dogs. then listed our dogs' names. She had posted in a few groups before being linked to the group for the trail builders, who my husband goes out there with. My husband isn't on social media, so he said he could send her his number. She texted him to double-check that she had the right person. He said it was, and that he was glad she was feeling better, and he was happy to help. She offered him money or to take him out for lunch, which he declined, and just said again that he was happy to help. They text back and forth every now and then, her initiating, and it's mostly, "Hey, how are you? Hope you're well," etc. Until she starts getting better and can ride again, it turns to, "Hey, we should hit the trail sometimes." Now, without tooting his horn for him, he's very good. Used to ride competitively when he was younger. Same with much of the guys he rides with. Most people at the park know who they are, and generally if they hear them coming, they will just get to one side and watch them pass. He tries to decline her offer in a way not to offend her, but there's no way she can keep up with them. There's a section that's just big jumps to practice on. He says maybe next time he's on those, he'll give her a shout and they can meet up there. Eventually that happens and he gives her a few tips, which then turns into her texting him more often about biking, asking for him to tutor her, and just general stuff. This goes on for the next couple of months, and there seems to be a friendship starting. I've never once had any concerns about this and was quite happy for him to continue, and they do. So yesterday, Monday, he went out with the dogs, and he bumped into her. He said they spoke for a while, and they went on a ride with the dogs to wind down before he came home. She started texting him when he got home, and I can see these messages coming through the iPad as I was using it. To be clear, he's not hiding the texts. He openly leaves his phone lying about, no passcode, lets our daughter play on it, happy for me to use it, doesn't get weird or secretive about it in the slightest. He knows the iPad and laptop are linked to his phone, and it can all be seen by anyone using them. He's never gave me cause for concern. It's her intentions I'm not too sure on at this point. So anyway, the dogs. We have 3 hunting dogs that we use in the fields regularly, and while they can look like they're running riot down these trails, they're extremely well trained and tuned into whatever my husband is doing, which becomes more apparent when he's not on the trails, and they're following, watching his every move. These texts started on about the dogs for a bit when she sent a text which ended in the following, "Like a slave and their master," with a smirk emoji. Admittedly, I don't care for emojis and the texting garbage people use nowadays. I don't even know what this smirk emoji means, frankly, but something about this made me feel icky, and I feel like there's an undertone going on here. He replied, but seemed to ignore that last comment. However, this caused me to think and look back on her communication, and I feel like I've always noticed a few red flags. 1. She always initiates. 2. If she doesn't get a reply, she seems to keep sending messages until he replies. 3. Not once has she ever referenced or acknowledged the fact that he's married or has a family, even when he mentioned that he's been away for my birthday or that he's going to our daughter's dancing show. She'll change the subject as if she's pretending that we don't exist, or to close down any mention of us. 4. She often makes excuses for them to meet up one-on-one. I'm sure there's more, but I don't want to scour through every message and feed into this more than I already have in case it's nothing. But am I crazy for thinking there may be something going on with her? I don't want to bring it up in case it is nothing and I look like I'm being paranoid. Just isn't sitting right. I'm also pregnant and the hormones are doing their thing. Should I say something or leave it and monitor this more closely for a bit? Or is this the effect of a 30-something pregnant mom whose husband seems to be aging like fine wine and any female he meets doing what he loves, being in amazing shape due to the hobby? I'm kind of like your husband. I do a lot of helping people in a different vein though, and there are a lot of rather lonely and awkward people out there who just keep messaging once they have my contact info, men and women. I think you've handled this with grace, but I think it's totally reasonable for you to have a conversation with your husband and just say, "Dude, she's pretty pushy, and you're not doing anything wrong, but I'd appreciate it if you shut her down and just tell her that you're not in a position to be a coach and your ride time is focused so you can't help her. She sounds a little starstruck and needy, but he's not doing anything wrong here, so I wouldn't make it a big deal." OP. Thank you. I just don't want to be the pregnant wife who's demanding he blocks women because I'm making things up in my head. He ran into her while he was out walking the dogs? Was this a planned meeting? Does she live near you? That's stalker behavior, and he needs to cut her off now. OP. No, the bike park. He was up with the dogs when she spotted them and called one over. Honestly, I have no idea where she lives. I know very little about her, other than she's younger than me. It sounds like your husband is uninterested in her, and she's pushing boundaries. Tell your husband you feel uncomfortable. He may welcome a chance to strategize how to push her away more clearly. It would probably help if he told her that he was busy with his wife and kids and not interested in connecting, although he's sure she'll find a group to bike with. He could block her if he feels he needs to. Update. It escalated quickly. For those asking why my husband hadn't been more abrupt with her, in a nutshell, he always tries to keep the peace. I downplayed how well known he is in our town. He comes from a well-known family in our area and was a downhill rider in the UCI and features in various YouTube channels. People come here specifically for the bike trails, and typically wherever he goes, there's usually a handful of people who recognize him and want to say hello. It's not a huge town, everyone knows everyone kind of place, and like anyone, he would never want people to come away with any interaction with him with a sour taste in their mouth. After our daughter was in bed, I spoke with my husband and told him my thoughts, and he agreed that she was being inappropriate, and that he in no way had done or said anything that would indicate he was alright with it. He hoped by ignoring it, she would get the hint and leave him be. He didn't want to make things awkward or embarrass anyone and admitted he probably should have said something. So after reading everyone's comments, there were loads of amazing ways people suggested shutting her down, which in hindsight would have been an amazing way to stop her in her tracks. However, he didn't want to ruffle feathers, so he went with me. We're starting to get ready for the baby and we have lots to do. Prepare, and simply don't have the time or energy to be spent on the bikes or meetups, and he will be unavailable to her for the foreseeable suggestions. He typed it up, handed it to me for my approval, and I hit send. Minutes later, his phone pings. I'm in the kitchen, he's in the living room, and I see his eyebrows raise, and he just looks at me. I go over, and he just hands me the phone. The audacity on this girl astounds me. She replied, "Okay, do you think we could meet up quickly tomorrow?" My heart sank, and I knew exactly what that meant. I burst into tears. In my head, this was the start of my world crumbling. My husband tried calming me down and asked me what I'd like him to do. Block her then and there, or ask what she wants to see him for. I wish I just told him to block her, but for some reason I wanted to know more. He replied asking what meeting up would achieve. She just says there's stuff she would like to talk to him about face to face. I felt like I was literally being punched in the chest and being winded at this point. He eventually gets the point across that he's not going to meet with her and drags it out of her. She tells him that at some point feelings started that turned into fantasies, that I didn't need to know about it and she would be happy to keep it that way. I felt like I was still keeping a level head on it until this point where I lashed out. I got very, very angry, started crying uncontrollably. My body was vibrating with anger. I've barely slept, woke up crying, felt horrible all day today. I've already got in touch with our friends who run these Facebook groups she joined, and I asked them to remove her and make sure she doesn't join again. My husband replied last night and told me it's sorted and I don't have to worry about her. I didn't see the text he sent, but it's there on the iPad, but I can't bring myself to even open the iMessage app after seeing what I saw. It's not fair that someone thinks they can just do something like that regardless of how it's going to impact an entire family. Currently, I don't want him leaving the house. I don't want him to ever go back to the trails. I don't want the dogs even going up there. The fact she's even been around my dogs really upsets me. So there we are. I still feel like my life's slipping away from me, like someone's trying to steal it. My confidence is shattered, my eyes sting, my head hurts from crying. I don't feel like eating. I don't think I've ever felt as low as I do now. Husband's trying his best to comfort me, but it will take a while, I guess. He feels very guilty, despite me telling him he's done nothing wrong. I can't believe how quickly my life just changed with a stupid text. So, thanks to everyone telling me to believe my gut, and everyone else who took the time to comment. Edit. I just want to add, I'm not controlling my husband. He had to take them out today. The bike park is almost in our back garden. I'm describing how I feel now. You'll be alright. And honestly, take comfort that this is probably a lot of pregnancy hormones, and your husband absolutely loves you. He handled it so well. He's been so transparent and upfront and kind. She tried to crash the party and failed miserably. He's all yours, and he wants it to stay that way. I hope you feel better and can do some rationalizing in the meantime. Your life didn't change. You're fine. If nothing else, life got better, because you now know that your husband would rather be loyal to you than carry on a secret affair with some side piece. Women pursue married men. Men pursue married women. It happens. But your spouse is rock solid, so make sure your actions match your words pertaining to how he did nothing wrong. Good luck with the baby. Am I the jerk for disowning my wife's daughter after she chose her mom's affair partner over me? I met my soon-to-be ex-wife during uni 12 years ago. She already had a kid when she was 19, but the dad left as soon as she started uni. We were dating for 3 months before I met her daughter, Lisa. I remember seeing her family for the first time. I was nervous meeting her parents, but when I saw little Lisa beside her mom, I was confused. I asked if that was her little sister or a cousin of hers, and her answer shocked me. When she told me that that's her daughter, I thought I misheard her or something. At first, I wanted to dump her for hiding something so crucial from me, but she kept on begging for me to stay, and eventually I relented, and soon enough, I started to love her daughter too and wanted to be her father figure. Our bond grew stronger over the years, and in early 2019, before lockdown, we got married. In late 2021, I adopted Lisa, and in early 2022, my wife gave birth to our son, Mark. After my son was born, my wife made the choice to stay at home for the time being, and I was completely fine with that. Everything was going perfectly until a few months ago. I started noticing my wife increasingly spending time with her friends. At the time, I didn't say anything since, in my mind, being at home all day was probably getting to her, and I didn't want to seem controlling. The thing that made me suspicious was her constant texting and going out of the room for calls. She never did that for anyone besides this one friend of hers. I asked her about it, but she gave me some vague answer about gossip. The moment that took it too far, though, was when I came home last week and saw her outside talking on the phone. This wasn't out of the ordinary. I remember seeing my son on the floor and he was crying. I was upset with my wife for just leaving him alone in the house, but when I went to pick him up, I realized he needed to have a diaper change. I was so furious. It seemed like it hadn't been changed since that morning. I quickly changed him and I rushed outside with him in my arms. I was beyond upset. I snatched her phone from her hand and bolted back inside. I locked her outside to have a talk with this friend of hers alone. I had my suspicions about who it really was, and when I heard a male voice calling out her name and asking who was there, I immediately knew what was going on. He ended the call as soon as he heard my voice. I then proceeded to lock the front door to make sure my wife wouldn't enter the house at all, and proceeded to screenshot as much of their chat as I could and then sent them to myself before deleting them on her phone. About 5 minutes later, she was still banging on the door leading to the backyard. I reluctantly opened it and she got me good. As soon as she realized what she just did, she apologized profusely, started crying and trying to hug me. I pushed her away and told her to meet me at the dining table. I told my daughter to quickly take care of the baby so me and her mom could have a quick chat. I just kept it simple. I told her this was her only chance to even have a sliver of a chance of getting me back. If she messed up this talk, it was over on the spot. No lies, nothing. She kept on trying to apologize and to say it wasn't that serious. I reminded her that she not only did me over, she could have also easily done more serious harm to our son by leaving him alone in the house like that. I then simply asked, who? For how long? Did they hook up? She replied with her ex-boss, Daniel, 6 months, and she didn't answer the last one, so I kept on reminding her that this was her last chance. She then just simply nodded. She started crying and begging me for forgiveness. She said she would block him then and there, would never contact him again. I could hook up with anyone I want from now on, yada yada. I guess Lisa heard the commotion and came downstairs. I told her to go back upstairs, but she just walked to my wife and asked her if I knew about Daniel. Up to this point, I was calm, but upon hearing this, I swear, even I started tearing up. I asked Lisa if she knew all along, and she said yes. At this point, I'm full on crying, and I asked her why she didn't tell me. She responded with, because unlike you, Daniel buys me the things I want without having to beg. I then asked her how she could possibly do this to her dad. She responded with, you're not my real dad. My wife screamed at her upon hearing what she said. At that point, I couldn't bear any of this anymore. I just grabbed my son and got in the car. Me and my son are currently staying at my parents' house. I've been drinking a lot. Thanks to my mother, my son is being taken care of right now. I'm beyond hurt. I've canceled my ex-daughter's private school tuitions, all her extracurricular activities, and I've contacted a divorce lawyer. He's going to serve my wife this Friday. My wife and Lisa have been blowing up my phone nonstop with apologies. I simply responded with, get a lawyer, and tell that ungrateful thing of yours to start calling Daniel her dad. I'm disowning her. And then I blocked my wife. I didn't respond to Lisa, I just simply blocked her. I guess my wife told our friends what her and Lisa did, and now they've been texting me nonstop. They understand how I'm feeling, but believe I'm going too far by divorcing my wife without hearing her out. They also keep telling me that disowning Lisa is definitely going too far, and she's just a kid and didn't understand what she was doing. I just can't get over the things she told me. I've worked my butt off to give my wife and daughter luxuries. I could have only dreamed of having these as a kid, and this is how I get paid back? Lisa, who's 13, is old enough to understand that hiding her mom's affair is bad and definitely purposely used those words to hurt me. But a part of me believes that there's still hope. A few family counseling sessions later, we could go back to living the life I once considered a fairy tale. I'm beyond destroyed by this whole situation, but part of me just believes that there's still hope. Am I really going too far? Am I the jerk for disowning my daughter and divorcing my wife? You have done no fault. Your wife is the one at fault here, and a divorce is reasonable. Your daughter seems to act a bit odd to me. I feel like your wife might have trash-talked you to her behind your back. The hard thing is that she's in her teenage years, which will build resentment towards the parents. And if she can't be taught what is right and wrong, you probably won't hear from her until she realizes it during her 20s. But you don't have to sway anymore unless you want to push for custody. All you can do is stay the kid's father and say you're there to talk whenever she wants, and hopefully she will realize it and gravitate towards you. Not the jerk. I 100% get the hurt and feeling of betrayal. Your stepdaughter might only be 13, but was mature enough to know how to really hurt your feelings. I would stick with a divorce. Cheating is a deal breaker for me. You may be able to salvage the relationship with your daughter, but it's going to take real remorse on her part, or you'll always wonder if she's only apologized to get back in your financial good books. Am I the jerk if I sell my youngest daughter's car to help cover my oldest tuition? I'm 55, male. My daughters are 21 and 17. My oldest is finishing up her junior year of college at a very good school. We're all very proud of her. She has a full-ride academic scholarship that is dependent on her GPA. Well, she says, based on her current grades, after the semester, her GPA will dip below the cutoff, and after extensive back and forth on the phone with the school, they say it's contractual and we will be obligated to pay next year's tuition. If she gets her GPA back above the threshold next semester, we can apparently readdress the situation to determine if her scholarship can be reinstated for the final semester of school. When I tell you we bent over backwards trying to find a solution before we came to the one we did, we've done the math, and she can't get her grades up with how much of the semester is left. She also can't take enough credits during the summer based on how the summer classes are structured to raise her GPA high enough, even if she got A's and the school refuses to make any exceptions. Of course, we were upset with her for allowing this to happen, and we had a long talk with her, and she's upset with herself too. But she's a very smart kid who really struggled with her mental health from sophomore year into junior year, and it affected her grades. Under no circumstances did we want her to leave college with only 1 year left. That just truly would not be fair to her after how hard she's worked. For my youngest 17th birthday back in December, we got her a brand new Toyota RAV4. This was somewhat a gift for the fact that she has also been working very hard in high school and getting great grades. She's finishing up her junior year as well and has begun the application process for college. The car was a big deal, and she was very happy to have it and has been driving it non-stop. Well, this week, her mom and I sat her down and told her that we're very sorry, but if we can't find another solution, we have to sell her car to help cover oldest tuition. Mind you, the cost of this car will cover probably 1/3 of the tuition for 1 full year after FAFSA, probably less with the value depreciation. She became extremely upset and told us it was unfair we were rewarding our oldest for failing and punishing her for succeeding. And whose car would we sell if the same happened to her? But we never wanted her to feel punished or for our oldest to feel rewarded. It's just the reality of what we need to do right now. If the same happened to her, we would do everything in our power to help. So please tell me if I would be the jerk for selling the car. You would be the jerk. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul. If you sell that car, the youngest will resent you forever. Also, how do you have the money to buy a 17-year-old a brand new car and not have enough for tuition? What were you going to do for her education fund? My sisters had my mom and dad help with college. My mom passed when I was a high school senior. I worked 40 hours a week and went to school full-time and took out student loans. One time I was short $3,000 and needed his help. He gave it, but then used it against me and as many times as he could. Never did that to my sisters. It's one of the many reasons I'm no contact with my dad. My mom used my college fund to send my sister to a fancy boarding school for high school. I went to public school for high school and had nothing for college. That's one of the many reasons I'm no contact with my mom. I've got a list a mile long. You're the jerk. Your eldest can take out education loans for her last year, and you can take out parental loans if needed. This is what most students do. She can also seek a part-time job. There's no reason or justification for taking away the car you gifted your younger kid. Well, what do you think? Would OP be the jerk or not? Please let us know. Gotta love when someone buys their teenager a brand new car, then runs into financial problems. Like, bruh, they're 17. They should be driving a green Saturn with a trash bag over one of the windows. My girlfriend edged a breakup to see what it was like. My ex and I have separated. It's weird to say because I'm still confused about everything, but it's as simple as the title says. A week ago, we were at my place when something just changed in her demeanor. She walked over and simply states, "I'm leaving." I was confused and asked what she meant, and she said something along the lines of me knowing why. I'm confused because a minute ago we were just happy watching shows and messing around. Upon further pressing, she says that it just seems like the right thing to do or something like that. I get flustered and I ask her what's wrong, and she sits there silently staring at her phone and only speaking to give me updates about when her Uber will arrive. I just stop pressing and sit down and just wait because I can't even explain this. I'm not going to yell, scream, or cry. I just felt the same burning hot feeling and difficulty breathing in my chest when my dog passed. Like this was it, and I have no way to understand why it's happening. All of a sudden, she puts down the phone and exclaims that she changed her mind. I asked what this was about, and she giggles almost playfully and says she just wanted to edge a breakup. She gives me her answer, and I just end things there. She immediately regrets it, asking me to reconsider. The thing is, this has happened before early in our relationship, and she explained that she has an impulsive habit of things. I've only seen this once, and it was when she ghosted me after just starting to date her. Maybe in her defense, she was on her period and was experiencing mood swings, but I sent her home and I haven't spoken to her in a week until now to get my stuff. Am I going too far? She seemed distraught and hurt and genuinely meant not to have wanted that. I want her back so badly, but I don't know if I can trust her yet. It's making me sick and I miss her so much. Am I wrong? Can there be something salvaged? I know she genuinely loves me, but I'm scared that I'm just being mistreated. Move on, my friend. She enjoys causing you pain. Full stop. She isn't for you. You deserve someone who won't treat you like this. Also, step back and look at the future with her. Now it's edging a breakup. What's next? Anyone who delights in causing others pain should not be in relationships. You may not realize it, but you're dodging a major bullet. She sounds absolutely horrendous. You can't just edge a breakup. That's playing with people. I'd stay far away, work on yourself, find yourself a good girlfriend who ain't gonna manipulate you or play with your feelings like this one clearly is. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. I'm leaving you too, Reddit boy. Oh no, poor me. Whatever will I do? You're supposed to get mad. Today I messed up by filing down my own front teeth. I, 18 male, was flossing my teeth yesterday night and I realized something. My front teeth are quite long, based on the ratio compared to the ones next to them and my lips, and make my bottom teeth basically invisible when I smile. Low key, look like a horse. My bite is good and my teeth are straight, so I figured all that I needed to do was shorten them a bit. A Google search revealed that it cost around $50 to $300 each tooth to get them filed down a little. I figured I could probably just do that myself. I have pretty bad insomnia and got maybe 8 hours of sleep this entire week so far, so maybe I'm not in the best state of mind. But I needed to magically become vaguely more good looking. So I start looking for a nail filer. I found one of those metal ones in the bathroom, tested it on my fingernail, and it worked. So I aligned it with my front teeth, both at once because I didn't want to have to be uneven. And I just started going back and forth, I guess. Successfully shaved off a bit. It was going really well and already looking better, but I still wanted them a tiny bit shorter. Might have gotten a bit carried away. I filed off a tad bit more here and there, and then my right tooth felt like it got struck by lightning. Super intense, weird zapping pain. I was super freaked out and went to go take a closer look. No blood or anything. I noticed my teeth are the perfect length and a nice square shape now. But then I went and rinsed my mouth with lukewarm water, exact same sensation. Did I mess up a nerve or something? I try to ignore it, but even just licking my teeth with my tongue causes a shooting and throbbing feeling in one of them. So disgusting. Even worse when I touch my teeth with my finger or whatever. I've never had a cavity or any dental work done, so I'm not 100% sure whether this is normal and will just go away on its own. It looks totally fine from the outside. Not sure what I did wrong, because dentists probably do the same thing. Gonna try to brush them now. I didn't do that this morning, to see if it improves it a bit. Edit. No, I literally can't. This hurts so bad and I'm not even exaggerating. Like actual electric shocks or something. Just existing with my mouth closed already hurts. Learning a lot about teeth today. Will see a dentist as soon as I can. Edit 2. Been a few hours. Like a few people suggested, I called a dental school close to me. It's a small facility and they said they don't do acute stuff. They can fix this crap, but not within 2 weeks. I don't know if I should wait that long because just breathing through my mouth is unironically like the worst pain I've ever felt. But I can't really afford to see an actual emergency dentist, so let's hope someone close to me does financial plans or something. Edit 3. I picked up the Sensodyne stuff people recommended. Even touching my teeth is agonizing at this point, so putting it on sucks so much. And it stings, but hopefully that'll work. Have to work a short shift now. Very conflicted on what to do at the moment. Edit 4. Last update probably. I called my dad, I don't live with him, and asked him to make me an appointment with his dentist because my front teeth really hurt. I didn't elaborate on why, because I'm taking this to the grave. They can't see me until Monday morning. Probably going to be cheaper than an emergency visit, but I'm not looking forward to the feeling of my body taking a screenshot every time my tongue or the air touches my teeth for another 3.5 days. Next time I get a potentially dumb idea, I'll think about it for a few hours before executing, I guess. Your teeth have enamel which protects them. You just destroyed all of it and need to see a dentist ASAP. This is basically an emergency. You messed up pretty bad. Your laterals, the second teeth, are meant to be slightly shorter than your incisors, the front teeth. Also, the American Dental Society standard for the safe amount of enamel to remove from a tooth is 1/4 millimeter because it won't cause sensitivity or long-term damage. You definitely did more than that. Go see a dentist. Source: I'm a treatment coordinator at an orthodontics office. Am I the jerk for grounding my daughter for ruining our vacation? My husband, daughter who's 15, stepkids who are 13, 16, and I just came back from a 2-week vacation. My daughter is very smart and is very good at a lot of things. She's also very competitive. My husband is also very competitive. My daughter started off this vacation by telling my husband that there was Sudoku on the plane and explaining how to play. He didn't know that she's been playing Sudoku for months. She made a bet with him that if she finishes the hardest level first, he'd buy her Wi-Fi for the flight, and if he finished first, she'd share with his youngest at the hotel, the one who kicks in her sleep. She ended up winning and pestered him until he bought the Wi-Fi. When we got there, she'd challenge him to races on land and in the pool. She's won medals at state track meets and has been swimming since she was 2. Every day she'd challenge him to something, win, and he'd have to buy her something from the resort or local shops. My husband was getting sick of losing, and my stepdaughters were upset that their dad was buying her stuff and not them. So I told my daughter she either couldn't compete with her stepdad or she had to let him win. She decided to tell her stepdad that she wasn't allowed to compete with him anymore because he couldn't handle losing. This made them start to argue, so I told her that if she kept it up, she'd be grounded to the resort for the rest of the trip, a little over a week at this point. She decided to test me, so I stuck to my word and she was left at the resort while the rest of us went out every day. The vacation was much more enjoyable without her turning everything into a competition, but when we got back, she told her dad that we grounded her, and he's mad at me now for leaving her there and excluding her from the vacation because my husband couldn't act like an adult. I told him my daughter was warned to stop, but she decided to test me, and now he's forcing her to stick to the custody schedule. Technically, I have her every other week, but he was letting her go back and forth whenever she wanted, and is threatening to go to court for child support and back pay. Am I the jerk for grounding her for ruining the vacation? You're the jerk. And unfortunately, so is your husband, because he can't stop accepting competitive bets from his 15-year-old stepdaughter, and then being upset when he consistently loses to her. You should have told him to simply tell her no thanks whenever she offered to race him, or otherwise compete against him in any way. He should have then decided that would be the wisest and most mature way to handle the situation. Nothing wrong with asking your daughter to stop trying to get your husband to compete against her during your vacation, or at least asking that she stop asking for rewards if she wins. But she's the kid in this situation. It should have been up to the 2 adults, you and your husband, to figure out a way to put a stop to this. Am I the jerk for naming my son after my father instead of my father-in-law? I, 26 female, recently had twins with my husband Harry, who's 30. I love my baby so much, but the labor was a nightmare. It was so difficult for my husband and I, and we've agreed that we are definitely not having any more kids. I was laboring for 2 days, and throughout the process, we kept our families updated. When they were finally able to visit, my parents and my in-laws came to see us. Everyone was fussing over the babies, and my poor husband, who only had about 4 hours of sleep for the whole 2 days, was napping. My dad, however, sat by me first and just held my hand for a bit. When I told him to go get some cuddles in with the twins, he said, "I'm here to see my baby," meaning me. It was honestly so sweet, and I started tearing up. I didn't even realize how invisible I felt when my husband was sleeping and my dad was there to make sure I was able to be taken care of. He took me down to the hospital cafe and we had breakfast together while the babies were with everyone else. I kept thinking about what my dad did for the next few days, and I decided that I would give my newborn son my father's name as his middle name. My husband was totally on board with this. However, this is where the problem began. We knew my father-in-law would be pretty upset about this. He always wanted a grandson named after him, but it's pretty clear now that he won't get one. My father-in-law is also one of those people who cares about bloodlines, so I don't think he'd want an adopted grandson named after him. Messed up, I know. My husband has a complicated relationship with his father, so he wasn't comfortable naming our son after him, but we agreed to give them the same initials so they'd both be AHD. He accepted this, but when he found out we were switching the middle name for my father, he lost his mind. He said that this was something he always wanted, and we were throwing it in his face by giving the baby my father's name as his middle name. I tried to explain why, but he cut me off and said that it was absurd to expect someone to check on me when there were babies that had just been born, and my father shouldn't be rewarded for ignoring his grandkids. I tried to explain that it was more than just the moment because my dad has been my best friend for my whole life, but he didn't want to hear it. Mother-in-law is saying we're the jerks for doing this because my dad doesn't care about any grandkids being named after him, but father-in-law has always wanted it. According to her, we're taking something away from him just because my dad chose to do something unusual, which to them was ignoring the babies until he was satisfied with me being okay. He did not ignore the kids. He got plenty of cuddles in when we got back from breakfast. My dad is honored by our choice, but thinks we shouldn't have done it because of what it means to father-in-law. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. If your father-in-law wants a baby named after him so badly, he could have given his name to one of his own kids. Your baby, your choice. As long as you and your husband agree on the name, everyone else can mind their own business. So if you named your son after your father-in-law, you'd be doing so simply to appease a jerk. Not because he's good and kind and someone you want your kid to emulate, but because he's a bully accustomed to forcing others to doing his bidding. And let's take that further. Assume you did name your son after him. Does it end there? Or does father-in-law feel that he now exerts some influence and control over your son? Your in-laws sound awful, and they don't get a say in how you name your kid. Am I the jerk for calling out my son's mother in front of her parents and mine? My ex, Tanya, and I have a kid together who's 5, and we've been separated for 1 year, trying to co-parent. Unfortunately, at the moment, I can only spend weekends with my son, and during the week he stays with Tanya. I pay child support, and above that, all expenses related to doctors, babysitting, clothes, and any expenses beyond the basics we share 50-50. All of this was determined by the judge. I had problems with Tanya. She wanted me to pay 100% for certain things, and it went to court. The judge was in my favor. We are in a better relationship, but she has a habit of saying that I only pay for child support and she pays for everything else, but not in front of me. I found this out from others, but since I never heard it from her or just gossip, I never approached her about it. Yesterday was our son's birthday, and we decided to have a joint party. He asked for it. So there were my parents, my ex-in-laws, and other relatives. Tanya was talking about our son going to a private school next year, and a comment caught my attention. Something like, "It's difficult having to bear all these expenses alone, but I want to guarantee the best future for him." My ex-mother-in-law asked if I wouldn't help. She says, "If he pays anything more than what's required for child support, it's a miracle." I believe she didn't think I was listening. I was outside before this. And I interrupted this conversation and said, "The judge didn't agree that we split everything 50-50? Why are you saying that you're paying for things alone if we even paid for this party together?" There was a strange mood at the party after this. Later, she took me aside before I left, saying that I didn't need to call her out during the party and make the mood bad. I should have resolved it privately like two adults. I replied that if she wants to be treated like an adult, she should stop bragging about things that are lies in front of her family and mine. Just tell them the truth or don't comment. Some of her relatives said I was unnecessary. My family at least stood by me. To be clear, my son was not around for this. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Blatant lies that greatly damage your reputation must be refuted. Make sure your ex is also not telling your kid that you're not helping financially. Makes me wonder if she's been getting extra financial support from family members by screaming broke at your expense. Yep, I knew a gal like this. Would tell family and friends and the folks at the kid's school and at church about how her ex didn't send child support and she needed help to make it through. It was all BS. The ex sent the court-ordered child support plus extra every month on time without fail, and would also do other things for his kids. Yet she was getting all kinds of financial support and freebie stuff because of the sob, woe is me story she would tell. And just like OP's ex, she was found out and then tried to backpedal. And this is why I'm never having kids. Several of my friends have had kids of their own over the years. Not one of them gets along with their baby mama. Heck, even my own sister treats her baby daddy like a dirtbag and has no respect for him. And I've known him my whole life. He's genuinely a good dude who does way more for her than the court ever would have made him if she'd taken him to court. All I know is I'm thankful that I never had any kids with my exes. They are all terrorizing dudes these days, but thankfully I'm not one of them. Put me on the alarm notification list, but don't give me any guidelines? Good luck. My employer was a medium-sized business, approximately 50 employees at the time, and I happened to live right across the street, about 3/4 of a mile from our office. Shortly after I started working there, they asked me if I would mind being listed as a contact for the burglar alarm, since all of the facilities and admin people lived pretty far away and I was right across the street. They said anytime the burglar alarm goes off, someone has to drive over to meet the police. Don't ask me why, I don't really understand the policy. At the time, I was a young, naive, recent college grad and figured I would try to be helpful and told them I didn't mind. Our internal company policy was, if you accidentally set the alarm off, you immediately call the people on the alarm company's list, in order, so they know it's a false alarm and they can tell the alarm company to ignore it. At the outset, this worked pretty well. I'd get a few false alarm calls a year, but I'd always get an apologetic call from the employee that set the alarm off, so I would just tell the alarm company to ignore it. Then the company started growing, and we started having more and more false alarms as we had new employees that would forget about the alarm. And then we started having employees that would ignore the policy and would just leave after setting the alarm off without notifying anybody. After I got wise to this, I started telling the alarm company to ignore everything, even if I didn't get a call, because we started getting charged false alarm fees, and I figured there was a 99% chance it was a false alarm. I figured we shouldn't waste the time of the police or waste company money paying false alarm fees. I brought this up in a meeting with our COO, and they completely lost it and insisted that we couldn't ignore alarm events because what if someone really did break in and somebody was working late? They could be at risk. So I said, okay, staff needs refresher training because they aren't following the policy to notify me of false alarms. So we're going to have a ton of police dispatches for false alarm events. COO minimizes the issue and insists the current policy is fine and no retraining is necessary. So, cue malicious compliance. Anytime I got an alarm call without someone notifying me of a false alarm, I followed the policy and had them send the police. There were 2 or 3 false alarm calls where the police showed up, found nothing, and sent us a bill. The very next call, I sent the police, like the policy said, and right as they were pulling up, they saw a vehicle pulling out of the parking lot and chased it. The employee that got chased? Yeah, it was the CEO. In addition to getting chased, he ended up getting cited for speeding as well. The next day, COO tries to pin this on me like it's somehow my fault, to which I reply, I just followed the policy you gave me. The next day, the entire company went through refresher training on alarm procedures, and I was taken off the alarm call list. I count it as a win. Customer tries to apologize for being a Karen, but I refuse to accept it. This happened a few years ago. At the time, my store offered 1-hour photo processing, and I was the head photo tech in our lab. This did not make me a manager in any way, but I had just been in the position for years at this point. If no one has ever worked in a photo lab, you should know that we have to deal with US federal copyright law. If someone tried to print a photo that they did not create themselves or an image owned by someone else, we cannot legally print it without permission from the owners. The customer that came in had several images of Disney characters that she claimed to have bought off Etsy. Regardless of where she bought them, Disney characters are a big no-go on the copyright scale. We can't even print those novelty photos you get taken at the park without a release. I try to refuse her images, and she starts throwing a fit. I expected as much. Most people have issues when I don't let them have their photos without understanding the rules we have to follow. Normally, just explaining it to them is enough to get them to calm down, but this customer was going off on me and yelling at me and wouldn't calm down, regardless of what I said. So eventually she said the magic words, "I want to talk to your manager." Fine by me. I call my boss, tell him what's going on, and he comes down to talk to the customer. He explains everything I just explained to the customer again and apologizes to the customer. "There's nothing we can do. Sorry, it's the law." The customer leaves and I don't think anything of it until she comes back 2 days later. At first, she was okay. She came up to the lab, patiently waited her turn, and tried to print the photos again. We had the same runaround, and after calling the same manager again, the customer tried to apologize to me, saying she just really wanted the photos, and she was sorry for calling me every name you can think of. Her: "I apologize. Can we put this behind us?" Me: "No, I do not accept your apology. There was no need for you to say any of what you just did." Her, looking very confused: "You can't not accept my apology." Me: "Yes, I can. I hold you responsible for what you said, and your words hurt." My manager, trying not to laugh: "Ma'am, I think you should go now." Karen pulls a cruel prank on her stepmom, gets kicked out. My ex's wife, Anna, is a sweetheart. I don't know the details, but Anna had a crappy father, which caused her to fear men. She's better now, but signs of male anger still freak her out sometimes. Anyways, my ex and I share a 19-year-old daughter, Jazz. Jazz and her father were never especially close, but they treat each other with respect. She only sees her dad for a week every month, but she likes her dad's family. Anyways, Jazz was at her dad's for like 5 hours when my ex called me to come pick her up. Turns out she invited her boyfriend over and they both decided to prank Anna. It was a cruel prank, knowing her history with her father, but Jazz and her boyfriend found it hilarious. Anna was inconsolable, and her kids called their dad because of how upset she was. I was horrified, but kept my cool to listen to Jazz's side. But when I picked her up, she was like, "OMG, it was just a joke, and it was my boyfriend's idea. Besides, Anna's grown, and her dad's been dead, so what's the big deal?" I asked her if she decided to do the prank, knowing how Anna would react. She argued with me on this and said, "Well, it was my boyfriend's idea." I asked her if he made her do it or if he begged her to do it. She said no. I asked her if she laughed and found it funny. She said yeah, no shame. So I said, "Then it's your fault just as much as it's your boyfriend's fault. If you're that weak that you do something so hurtful just because your boyfriend said so, then clearly I haven't done my part." She seemed to ignore everything I said except for the "you're weak" part. She went, "Wow, Mom, now I know what you really think of me." I told her to cut it out, but she said, "You called me weak and insulted me and expect me to listen to you? You might be my mom, but that doesn't give you the right to insult me. I'm an adult, for goodness sake." I told her to act like one then and stop living off of me if she's such a big adult. She said fine, and she called her boyfriend and left. But I feel terrible. I didn't mean it at all. And now I feel like maybe I shouldn't have called her weak or told her to stop living off of me. I should have just told her to cut it out. But yeah, I know I can't take it back, but my husband thinks I didn't do anything wrong. Neither does my mom, though she does think that I let her go too easily. I don't know. I'm overwhelmed and confused, and my daughter isn't talking to me, and Anna's apparently not doing too well, and I don't know. Not the jerk. If she's an adult, she'll be judged as an adult, especially on her inability to take responsibility and casual cruelty. You were honest with her, and she chose to take offense, instead of addressing the lack of empathy that brought all this on. Let her live in the real world a while. I can't imagine a harsher or more appropriate punishment. Act with kindness or get out isn't that much to ask, in my humble opinion. Am I the jerk for not pulling over while transporting a cheetah? I'm a zookeeper of 11 years and got the call yesterday that we had acquired 2 cheetahs from another zoo, about 4 hours away. Happens from time to time. Zoos decide that particular animals might be better off at one facility than another. We left in one of our transport vans around 2 p.m. I took 2 keepers with me. Let's call them Seth, who's been around as a swing keeper for a few years, has a bit of cat experience, and Megan, fairly new to the industry, brought her partially for the experience and partially because she was the only other one who wanted some extra hours working late. We arrive at 6 p.m. and get to see these two beautiful cheetahs, and Seth helps me get them loaded into our crates. He does ask, shouldn't we wait for them to go to the bathroom before driving back with them? Which I know is a common practice sometimes, but I said, nah, it could be hours, and the van smells of animals already. We'll be getting back late enough as it is. So they agreed and we headed back. It was a bit cramped, but we made it work. Megan sat up front with me and Seth sat in the back with the cheetah crates. Had to keep them in the passenger compartment to observe them, make sure they were okay. The drive back went fine until right before the 3-hour mark. Predictably, one of the cheetahs relieved itself. Seth said, "Oh no," it went. And a few seconds later, the smell hit us up front. Honestly, to me, it just smelled like healthy cheetah do. But I was mostly just happy to know that the cheetah we got was healthy. It sprayed too, intact male cheetah, which did make it worse. When the smell hit Megan, she started gagging, saying, "Oh my God, it's atrocious." I agreed, but kept driving. Less than a minute later, she said, "Please, can we pull over? I'm going to be sick." I said that it'll be hard to clean this. It's only another hour and a half tops. But she said, "I don't know if I can make it an hour in this." I really hoped we could make it back, but when even Seth lost his composure and started retching, I knew this wasn't good, and Megan was practically crying. So I relented and pulled off at the next exit and pulled up behind a gas station to clean the crate. But not before Megan threw up. Seth had to help me transfer the cheetah, and then we cleaned the crate and Megan's throw up. Then we got back in, but Megan recoiled and gagged, saying the van still reeked of throw up, cheetah dew, and spray, which was true. She asked if we could let it air out for another hour, but I said no, sorry, it would barely help, and we need to be getting back. She looked ill and miserable the whole drive back and has been a bit standoffish to me since. I'm not her regular direct manager, so it's not really my place to intervene. Seth did say the next day, "That's what I was afraid of," but I think my actions were justified. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I've done animal transports. Freezing, wet, smelling horribly. The animals come first. There is no waiting. You make it as short and as least stressful as possible for the animal. People can deal with it. Awesome that you stopped for them when they got sick. I would have passed them a bucket. All the "you're the jerks" are coming from people who have never worked with non-domesticated animals. Info. Is the intent for Megan to work with big cats at all? If so, I thought this was something all big cat keepers had to go through. I know I threw up 6 times in my first week working with lions, but they never gave me any breaks or help enduring it, and said eventually I'd acclimate if I stuck with it. Finally I did, sort of, but oof, it took some time, I'll tell you that. If not, then you would be the jerk. Don't put people through that smell who don't need to deal with it as part of their jobs. Not the jerk. You're zookeepers. Animals are going to do what animals are going to do. This sounds like a normal part of a job that's sometimes stinky. Sounds like Megan, and perhaps Seth, should find a different career. My son expects me to keep a promise I made over 20 years ago. I have 2 sons, Jake, who's 30, and Carlos, who's also 30. Carlos is technically my stepson, but he's still my son. I adopted him. I have a ranch. It's only 2 hours away from the city, so I used to go every week with my son Jake when he was little. During one of the trips to the ranch, I offhandedly promised him that one day this ranch would be his. I met Carlos' dad when Jake and Carlos were 6. I married him a year later. Both Jake and Carlos used to go with me almost every week to the ranch, depending on if they were busy. When they were both 16, Jake picked up football pretty seriously, so he couldn't go to the ranch so much anymore. Carlos continued to go with me until 18 when he went to college and studied engineering and agriculture. Jake got a degree in finance. After college, Carlos asked me if he could move to the ranch to work there full-time. Of course, I agreed. That was 8 years ago. Since then, he has made great improvements, and I can confidently say he's the biggest reason as to why the ranch is thriving. He also now has a wife and a daughter who live there full-time. On the other hand, Jake didn't really show any interest towards the ranch. He maybe goes once every 4 months. I was having dinner with Jake the other day. We were reminiscing a dear family friend who recently passed without a will and how his family is now looking towards a long process of litigation because they couldn't agree about how to split his stuff. I said, "Good thing that I already decided mine." Jake was surprised and asked me how I'm going to split my net worth. I told him that the stuff from his mom was going to him, and the ranch was to be split between Carlos and him, and the house will stay with my husband. Jake then asked me if I remembered the promise I made to him when he was 6. I said I did. Then he asked me why I'm not honoring that promise. I was shocked. I asked him if he was being serious, and he said yes. Then I said, "It's insane that you're expecting me to do that. You're being ridiculous." He was not happy. We finished dinner quickly after that, and when I told him goodbye, he said to me to not contact him for a while because he had to sort out his feelings about this. That was a week ago, and he hasn't returned any of my calls. Carlos is also mad at me because Jake is basically his best friend and hasn't talked to him either. My husband is staying out of all of this. Not the jerk. Carlos has sweat equity in the ranch at this point. You would be justified in leaving the ranch to Carlos alone. But you are splitting the ranch so Jake gets half of it. That's fair, and it's not breaking a promise. If Jake wants the entire ranch, he can buy out Carlos' half, which Carlos has earned. My ex-girlfriend set my house on fire, and I think I might be homeless soon. I've been with my girlfriend for 7 years now. I introduced her to my parents, and they did not approve of her. I wish at the time I had listened. In the beginning, everything was good. She was sugar and spice and everything nice. We would go on dates, come back to my place or hers, have fun, maybe watch a movie. Then she became distant. I doubt that she ever cheated because she gave me a lot of her time. I just know. She was never big into social media, so she was never on her phone, never had a reason to be on her phone. But she eventually started making more serious threats towards me, like how she's going to go upside my head. This became more and more frequent until I decided that I was going to leave and go home one night during a rare visit to her place. The next day, she came to my place to apologize, but I wasn't in the mood, so I didn't get to the door as quickly as I could. But then she started yelling at me, and that's when I felt like I shouldn't open the door. So I didn't, and she proceeds to yell at me for a good 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. Next thing I know, I hear a glass shatter upstairs. She threw a rock through my second-floor window. I didn't call the police because I didn't want her to go to jail. I just cleaned up the glass and I put a bag over my window until I could afford to replace it. I didn't want to take her to court over that because I knew she couldn't really afford to pay me back for it. I will admit that I was a sucker at the time, but I was still in love with her. However, sometime after this event, I decided I no longer wanted to be with her for separate issues, as hilarious as that probably sounds. So I set up a meeting in a publicly crowded place and I told her exactly what I wanted to say, and I was really surprised by how she took it. She said that she was sorry for everything and that she understood and wouldn't bother me again. I went home and kept looking out the window. I expected her to pull up at some point and that I would go outside and talk to her, or maybe she would blow up my phone with messages saying to give her another chance, but she didn't. It wasn't until a whole month after the entire breakup that she reached out to tell me that she wanted to meet up and properly apologize. So I agreed to it because she hadn't caused any more problems at the time. She proposed a McDonald's closer to her house. She got me a milkshake and fries, but I remember after taking a few bites and sips, I suddenly had to use the restroom. My stomach was really hurting, and I had to have been in there for a good hour. And due to her own admission, this is when she set my house on fire. I was telling her how my stomach hurt, and she said we can just call it a night. She was getting tired anyway, and she said what she needed to say, and it was probably very visibly clear I had to go to the restroom. By the time I get to my house, I pass her house, seeing her car parked in her driveway on the way there, and the police are in my house. The neighbors already called the cops. The fire trucks came. She's been arrested, and I'm now couch surfing with my friends. I don't want to tell my parents about this. It's really embarrassing, and they don't know about it because they live states away. I've just been lying to them about how life is going. I don't know how much longer my friends will be so kind as to let me couch surf with them. I just feel so stupid and like I wasted so much time on this person. But most of all, I feel sad. There's already been a trial and she admitted to burning my house down. Now I'm just trying to pick up the pieces. You may have covered this base already, but did you have insurance on your home? Regardless, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you get what you need from the trial and that you're able to move past this. Also, restraining order maybe? If she went this far, there's no telling how far she would go. OP. No insurance, but yes, she's in jail now. As a mother of grown kids, it hurts so much when your kids don't feel that they can tell you what's going on. It makes us feel that we failed our kids in some way when they can't talk to us. So get off Reddit and go call your parents. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Am I the jerk for refusing to give a donut to a kid at a party? I can't believe I'm posting this, but here we are. I have a mixed group of friends, and some are saying that I was wrong, so I decided to let Reddit decide. My husband and I were invited to a birthday party. We asked if we could bring anything, and the host said not needed, but we could if we wanted to. Since I don't like showing up empty-handed anywhere, I thought it would be nice to buy some donuts from a shop near us. We got a bunch of donuts and one gluten-free donut for my husband, who can't have gluten. Side note, no one at the party has any gluten issues. We know these people fairly well. We got to the party and set the donuts down. Immediately, this kid and his mom decided to come on over because, in her words, "These are the best donuts in town. Wow, thank you for bringing them." I open up the boxes, and immediately the kid throws his hands on the gluten-free one. I kindly said, "Oh, sorry, I'm saving that one for my husband. He can't have gluten." I pick the donut out and set it aside and proceed to tell him all of the other wonderful flavors that I got. Cookies and cream, Nutella, it was donuts galore. The kid immediately starts crying because he wanted the one I took away, and his mom proceeded to begin tearing into me and yelling at me for not just giving him the donut. "He's just a kid." I was stunned, and I immediately just left the situation, went outside with my husband's donut and gave it to him. I was mortified. I thought she would calm down, but no. This lady proceeds to go outside and make a scene about it. A big argument ensued about how I refused her kid a donut. It was comical at this point. I calmly stated my point again, that this donut was for my husband who is gluten-free, and I know no one there has an issue with gluten, so her kid could have one of the others. This lady wouldn't let it go. Here's where I might be the jerk. At this point, I'm sick of her entitlement, so I just told her that. She is an entitled little brat, and now I know where her kid gets it from. She starts crying, making a scene, and leaves the party. The host and everyone there is just mortified, and then tells me I should have just handed the kid the donut. My husband sticks up for me, and we decided to leave early. Not the jerk. I think you handled the situation as best you could. Kids take after their parents, and it sounds like they're an entitled family. Their lack of empathy is pathetic, and honestly, it's sad that she's being such a bad role model for her kid. Maybe she was going through something, but no adult with decent manners and respect for others would give that much of a hoot about a donut. Discipline your kid and move on. Maybe the only thing to do differently would have been to just keep the donuts separate from the beginning. But again, you already went out of your way to bring something, so it really shouldn't matter. People are so entitled nowadays, it's ridiculous. I hope your husband enjoyed the donut. Am I the jerk for accepting and refusing to return a gift from my son's girlfriend? My son, who's 23, is 5 months into dating his girlfriend, who's 22. She's a complete delight to be around, and I think we've bonded quite a bit despite the short time we've known each other. Now I have to mention here that she's very rich. My son estimates that the money she gets from her parents every month is the same as his yearly income. My son has expressed to me several times that he's worried it might look like he's only dating her for her money. So he's been really strict about things like paying his share of things and not accepting expensive gifts from her. Yesterday was my birthday, and his girlfriend got me a very expensive designer handbag that I had mentioned being excited about months ago, even though I could never afford it on my own. I'm so touched that she remembered a short comment I made so long ago. I told my son about it, and he became very angry at me. Said he's had to refuse so many gifts, outings, and vacation plans since they've been dating because he can't stand her thinking he's into her money. And here I am, happily accepting the first gift she got me. He demanded that I return it immediately or I'll disturb the dynamic of their relationship. I refused, and I told him it's such a thoughtful gift, even not considering the price, and she'll be hurt if I return it. Now he's saying I'm greedy and don't care that I'm making him out to look like a gold digger whose family is happy to mooch off her. Not the jerk. I get he's trying to not come across as a gold digger, which I totally understand, but that's something he decided for himself to do. But it's a thoughtful gift meant for you, hence it's up to you to accept it or not. Personally, I don't like rejecting gifts, especially the first gift. The first gift is always a memorable moment. She went out of her way to get you something she knew you'd like, and I think that's very kind of her. I think a way to compromise is to accept the gift and let her know how appreciative you are that she remembered how much you like that bag, but that she doesn't need to spend so much on future gifts. as any gift is a nice gift, no matter the price. What's interesting is that him refusing so much may actually come back to bite him, especially since he's even refusing to go along with vacation plans. After a while, the girlfriend may decide she wants to be with someone who will want to go on those vacations with her, as opposed to someone who will just keep letting his insecurities get in the way. Yes, too much turning down nice things she wants to do with him is hurtful to the fun and joy of a relationship. If the money aspect were reversed, he'd feel differently, most likely because he's the guy. It would seem normal to want to treat her since he really likes her and affording it is no problem. Spouse's entitled friend insists on staying with us and being chauffeured around everywhere. My spouse's childhood friend announced a year ago that they were coming to our country and intended to stay with us. We tentatively said okay. Recently, we found out that my mother requires a significant medical procedure, will be hospitalized for a few days to a week, and recovering with us after. The three of us live together as roommates, with bills split equally essentially. This procedure falls smack dab into the middle of spouse's friend's trip. I told my spouse to tell their friend about the circumstances and that this would severely impact any sightseeing plans we had, and I would be out for the duration of the trip between work and taking care of my mom. My spouse's friend, despite driving for many years in their home country, did not want to drive while here and expected us to ferry them around. I had hoped that, like most normal people, the friend would pick up on the fact that this is not a good time to visit and make alternate arrangements, such as driving a car. But instead, they said, "Well, as long as I get to see X while I'm here, I'm fine." I should probably explain that my spouse is a very new driver and just got their license a month ago and has very little experience driving on the freeways. And they're still very terrified of these. I do most of the driving as a result while they're getting comfortable. Said friend arrived on Monday, and since then, expected to be picked up from the airport, a 2-hour drive each way, and my spouse, the new driver, had to drive in horrific traffic to get them. I was busy with appointments for my mom and work. Did not offer gas money to my spouse for driving all that way to get them. Expects to be driven to sightsee every day, again, never offers to pay for gas money or pay for anything. When in our house, has the TV up loud in the one room I enjoy hanging out in. Doesn't pick up after themselves, has not offered to pay for a single meal, does not even pay for their own meals or drinks. When taken to sightsee, they never say thank you and even complain about one place my spouse took them to. Takes long showers without even asking if we need the bathroom before. Does not offer to help with anything in the house, refuses to arrange for their own sightseeing, and is entirely dependent on my spouse. Lectures my spouse on the politics and social norms of our country, despite the fact that my spouse has lived here for 4 years and knows more than said friend does. Friend is a total social drain to be around and only wants to talk about themselves and their thoughts and complaints. Friend has not once said thank you to us for hosting or driving or paying for their meals. Friend is staying for 13 days total, all with us, all with the expectation of us driving them around. I have social anxiety, my spouse knows this, and have had to give up my 2 favorite spaces in the whole house so the friend has a place to sleep and a place to hang out when they're not in the bedroom. I work from home and had to relocate my work setup to another part of the house, which was and is a major inconvenience as work is crazy right now and I'm having to balance taking care of my mom with that. The last 6 days have been horrible and I feel like I have no peace in my own home, especially after a long day of having to be social while working and then having to continue that because of the house guest. The next 6 days will also be horrible as this friend simply will not take a hint and I've got the stress of dealing with my parent who's having a procedure. I've talked to my spouse and they agree that the friend is a drain. They're not happy either, but they're trying to stick it out until the friend leaves and have already said that the friend will not be allowed to stay here again. It's clear to me that the friend is massively taking advantage of my spouse and I hate to see it. I'm just flabbergasted that people like this even exist, as every other house guest we've ever had has been considerate, occupies themselves, arranges for their own transportation, and genuinely seems to care about us. This friend is one of the most entitled people I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. And just to clarify a few things, I'm not paying for anything for the friend. I put my foot down. My spouse is paying for his own funds. I told my spouse that I thought their friend should make an alternate arrangement and that I was in no place mentally or emotionally to have someone staying with us. I told my spouse that at the very least, friend needs to drive themselves, not put all that burden on spouse, and I really need my spouse to be there to support me at the hospital. I did try to cancel his friend coming here, but it all fell on deaf ears. I'm flabbergasted you would let this happen in the first place. Why wouldn't you cancel the trip when your mom got sick? At the very least, confront them about sponging off you and tell them you will need them to kick up some money for the second week of their stay. Print out some self-guided walking tours of your city and point this person to the nearest bus or tram stop. Remember, people, no one can take advantage of you unless you let them. Today I messed up by accidentally having a framed picture of my electrician on my nightstand. This story starts a little over 2 years ago, on New Year's Eve of 2022. I celebrated with a few of my closest friends and my best friend's cousin, and at the end of the night, we took a nice Polaroid photo. It turned out to be one of the last pictures I had of one of my friends before he passed, so I decided to put it in a nice frame that I keep on my nightstand, alongside a bigger picture of me and my girlfriend. In the photo itself, there's me, my girlfriend, my 3 best friends, and the aforementioned cousin. Now, I had nothing against the guy. He seemed nice enough, but I had met him like 3 times in total, so it didn't exactly feel appropriate to have a picture of him next to my pillow. Given that he was the last on the right in the photo, it was easy enough to just put the photo in the frame in such a way that he's entirely hidden behind it. Except that one time when she cleaned our room, my girlfriend moved the photo to the other side, so he was the only one sticking out of the frame. Because we are both mentally 12, we found this idea of having a framed photo of a random dude in our bedroom very funny, so it became a bit of a running joke for her to keep doing it when I wasn't expecting it. Now for the mistake. A few days ago, I needed to install a new lamp, and my best friend recommended his cousin. So the dude shows up to my house, and I show him to the bedroom where I wanted the lamp installed. He comes in, we do a bit of small talk, and then suddenly he goes kind of quiet. It is then that I realize that he's looking straight at my nightstand, the nightstand on which there's a framed picture of him. To make matters worse, I decided to give him an explanation, and since I thought the truth wasn't believable enough, I made up one on the spot. I told him that I put that picture there to remember what he looked like when I picked him up from the bus station, in a frame next to my bed, as one does. I don't think he bought it. He did his job and left like 6 days ago, and I still can't stop thinking about what an idiot I am. Am I the jerk for telling my husband to stop helping my neighbor and her son? About 5 years ago, my neighbor Jane kept walking over to our house and sending me messages asking for help for her son to learn to snowboard from my husband. Jane's husband wasn't interested in helping, and she kept telling me how great it was that my husband would snowboard with my son. At one point, she asked if my husband, her, and her son could go snowboarding together. I put my foot down and said absolutely not. Fast forward a number of years later, and her son is now 16. She again asked for help buying a new snowboard, and my husband is nice and went and helped her and her son purchase one. She then started texting him, asking if she could go with my husband and my son and her son snowboarding the next weekend. My husband said that was fine. However, my son decided not to go last minute because he wanted to just spend time with my husband. My husband didn't know that, but I did. My husband spent the day with Jane and her son, even after me telling him that I wasn't happy about him going and that he should cancel, but he said he already told her that he would and didn't want to flake. She texts him during work hours. He replies and has relentless questions and asks when's the next time they can go snowboarding. I told my husband to stop texting her and he can't go with her anymore. It's making me uncomfortable. Note, her husband is around and did go with them to purchase the snowboard, but doesn't have the time to spend with them on the weekends, so she wants my husband to go help them and show them the ropes. He's one of those people that likes to help others. However, I told him to ghost her. He said it's going to be weird when he sees her in the neighborhood, and what is he supposed to say when he sees her? I told him to tell her that he's just too busy. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Point out to your husband that his desire to help is alienating his son. He didn't check if his son wanted the neighbors to come along. It's not your husband's job to make up for her husband being unable to spend weekends with them. OP. My husband is clueless and thought our son wanted to go to help them too. My husband does go snowboarding quite a bit, sometimes with my son and sometimes alone. But I don't like her tagging along. It's not like I told her he wanted to help her. I just think this is wrong when we are married and she's a woman who's not happy with the attention she gets from her husband, obviously. Thank you. He's not clueless. He enjoys her attention too and pretends he's just a good neighbor. She likes him. Ain't no way in heck this lady got her own dang husband and needs yours for this. She needs to go find a snowboarding instructor. And it's great that your husband is nice and all, but the heavenly gates will not refuse to open for him if he doesn't give this weird neighbor lady and her son assistance with snowboarding. My stepdaughter ruined my house, so now I'm getting revenge. I, 43 female, and my husband, who's 47, we've been married for 4 years now. We both have kids from our previous marriages, which includes our 12 and 10-year-old sons, and O, who's 18, daughter. My husband and I dated for 3 years prior to getting married, but we all moved in together 2 years ago. O lives with us full-time, and it had a bit of a rocky start with mine and O's relationship, but we managed to push through it. I told O from day one that I wasn't her mom, but if there was anything she wanted to talk about or that she needs, she can come to me. After a few months, we became quite close, and she talked to me about anything she was too embarrassed to talk with her dad about. Recently, O has been trying to make friends at college since she just started in the spring. On-campus residence is very expensive for the college, and it's close to our house, so O decided to stay at home. That's not a problem. The problem is that O keeps bringing her friends over to hang out, but leaving it a mess. Normally, it's not a major deal. I have OCD, so sometimes there are issues depending on the situation though. Because she picks up after herself, but I recently hired a housekeeper to clean the house once a week since I've been working overtime more often, and me and my husband just don't have the time to do it. It's expensive, but I can't stand it when it becomes too messy for me, so I think it's worth it. This time, she brought her friends over after the house was cleaned, and I guess they decided not to take their shoes off and walked all around the house leaving footprints. They also made pizza from scratch and left the crumbles on the counters, among other things. They pretty much made the entire house filthy before I could even get home. Once again, the cleaning service is quite expensive because I like it a higher level of cleaning quality, so I was ticked off. My husband is trying to make me let it go because O has always struggled to make friends, but I can't let it go because of how much it cost. I requested the exact amount I paid for the cleaning service to her Venmo, and she acted all confused on why she had to pay for it. I explained that her and her friends ruined my house that was just cleaned, but she insisted it wasn't her. I have a Ring camera, and I have video proof of her and her friends going into the house, and they were the only ones home that day before me. I gave her 2 choices, pay for the damages or I stop paying for her phone. She's complaining, saying it wasn't her, and she doesn't have the money to pay for the phone bill. Am I the jerk? Edit to clear up confusion. The cleaners came before O, fully cleaned the house, then left, and an hour later, O came in with her friends. Footprints in your house and pizza crumbs do not make a house filthy. You had plenty of options other than charging your stepdaughter. You could have cleaned it. Your husband could have cleaned it. You could have asked her to, etc. You're the jerk. Telling your stepdaughter she ruined your house is a sure way to ruin your relationship with her. You're the jerk for calling your house ruined for a fairly easily cleanable mess. She should have cleaned it because you're not the one who usually disciplines, and this is obviously an issue for you, and between the two of you, you should have told her father to enforce that. Of course, her friends should have taken their shoes off. Of course, your stepdaughter needs to clean up after herself and her friends, but she's not a jerk for living and sometimes leaving a mess. Ruined implies actual damage. A mess is a mess, not damage. You're overreacting. You're the jerk. There's nothing wrong with crumbs on the counter. My counter has more crumbs than I know what to do with. You know why? Because that's what happens when you have kids. Same goes for footprints. Unless you're one of those psychos that makes people take off their shoes every time they step foot into your house, you're gonna wind up with some footprints here and there. Big whoop. You sound insufferable, and if I were your daughter, I would do so much more to your precious house just to tick you off. Am I the jerk for making my niece clean and cook to teach her respect? I'm a stay-at-home mom by choice, and my husband works 2 jobs to make that possible for me. Due to his 2 jobs, the majority of housekeeping and cooking is my responsibility. My husband spends extra time with the kids and taking care of them when he's off or has an hour or 2 of downtime and does stuff around the house on his off time. We're happy with this arrangement and it works for us. My niece, Jenny, who's 20, female, is staying with us while she's in college. The only expenses she has is her own food if she doesn't want to eat what we make, her car, and her gas, so she works part-time. She does not like our arrangement at all. Jenny is constantly on about how my husband needs to be doing more around the house and taking care of his kids. I've told her that his contribution is working so that I can pursue staying home, but she doesn't listen and has told both of us that it needs to be 50-50 with housekeeping and the kids. My husband for the most part ignores her. He told her one time he does what he can when he can and hasn't entertained her pestering since. It got to a point I told Jenny she either needs to respect our dynamic, not agree with, just respect, or that she would need to figure out a different living arrangement. A couple days ago, my husband got home early, around 11:30 p.m. He wanted to play some games to unwind before we went to bed. He asked if I moved his console. We were looking for it when Jenny came up from the basement and said that she had his console and would give it back once he actually helped around the house so I could get a break. We got his console back after telling her we will not tolerate stealing in our house and told her we'd figure out what to do about her by the morning. We decided to give her one last chance before kicking her out. We asked what all she thought he should be doing around the house, and she told us, and we then told her that she would be responsible for all of those tasks minus childcare for the week. We sent our oldest to my parents, and for the first 4 days, if it was on that list, I didn't do it. Some mess accumulated, and meals didn't get made 2 out of those 4 days. Jenny complained that she couldn't do everything with her studies and job, but I told her I didn't want to hear it since she expected my husband to do it. The 5th day, Jenny left to stay with a friend, and I got a call from my sister. She feels what we did was cruel and too far since Jenny was just trying to stand up for her aunt. I told her I didn't need Jenny standing up for me. What I needed was for her to respect how my husband and I run our household and not always have a go at him. She wants us to let Jenny come back and drop the cleaning lesson, but I told her no way, since she did steal from my husband over this. My own parents are now backing my sister. Were we wrong to have Jenny do housework to make a point? Edit. To the people who are concerned and keep telling me to call a crisis helpline, please buzz off. You're the jerk. Just because your husband sits on his butt all day in an air-conditioned office browsing the internet and talking down to low-paid employees does not give him the right to come home and play video games until it's time to go to sleep. Your niece is 100% right, and it's so sad that you can't see that. Looks like your husband has you brainwashed into his outdated beliefs, and your niece is just trying to get you to wake up from your delusion. This story honestly breaks my heart. Why should all of the childcare or house chores be your responsibility when your husband benefits just as much from a clean house as you do? You're the jerk. I'm sorry, but your niece is correct. This isn't the 50s anymore, and fathers can't get by doing the bare minimum at home just because they have some basic job they do. It's been proven time and time again that stay-at-home moms have it much harder than any father who spends his days goofing off in the workplace. You have to take the kids to school and pick them up, cook breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, etc. Basically be a 24/7 babysitter, and all he has to do is go to work, clock in, and talk to his idiot friends all day. I hope you realize how wrong you are, and don't be surprised when niece goes no contact with you. Not the jerk. What is it with you people here on Reddit? If the dynamic works for them, why can't you just agree to disagree and be happy for OP that her family is happy, healthy, and safe? She said that her husband works 2 separate jobs so that she can be what she'd like to, which is a stay-at-home mom. If that's what makes her happy and it works for them, where's the harm in it? Sometimes I feel like many of you are so anti-tradition that it warps your mind into something that is very broken, to say the least. My fiancé refuses to add my name to the house he owns. My fiancé, 28 male, and I, 26 female, started dating 3 years ago, and I can't wait to be with him for the rest of my life, but I think I might have messed up. We got engaged 3 months ago and are planning on getting married in November, and last night we were discussing some things about the wedding and the topic of our financial plan for once we're married, which is where the argument started, because I asked him when I would be added onto the deed for the house. Background. When my fiancé was 23, his uncle passed and left him a huge inheritance, which has basically set him up for life, especially since he doesn't like super flashy things and only really spends money on his hobbies. And for the first 2 years after this, he struggled to date because he was always worried the girl he was dating was using him. I moved in with fiancé a year into our relationship, and he has never charged me for any bills and only expects me to pay for luxury items that I want. 9 months ago, me and my fiancé had a discussion in which he asked me if I wanted to stop working because I worked as a teacher and he could tell that my work wasn't making me happy, which he was right. We came to the agreement that I would stop working and some ground rules. The ground rules include that he would give me allowance every month and that he expected me to not just sit at home all day on my phone because he wants me to find hobbies and passions because we both don't want kids. I was totally on board with the rules, and quitting really helped my mental health. So when I brought up having my name added to the house deed, he got really quiet. He told me that he didn't feel comfortable adding my name to the deed as the house had been fully paid off by him before we had even met, and he felt that he is the one responsible for all the payments. This made me upset because I thought he was trying to say that I was using him and we're getting married, so I thought the house would become ours. He told me that things will become ours, but this was the first house he ever bought and that he wanted to keep something for himself. He told me that if we decide to change houses or have one built, which we have discussed before, that he would have both of our names on the deed. This made me more upset, because if he's willing to do it on the possible next house, why can't he do it for our current house? We got into an argument, and I left to go to my sister's apartment and texted my friend about the situation, and she told me that I was being a jerk and overreacting. But I don't see it that way, and I think he should be willing to put my name on the deed. Am I overreacting and throwing away a good relationship, or is he being a jerk by not seeing my side? You are not the jerk. Once you get married, regardless of job situation or the fact that the house was bought and paid for before you and him got together, you have every right to ask to be on the deed. What if, God forbid, something happens to him? You're potentially left without the house and access to it, especially if there are other family members he may have promised it to or have a current will to. If tables were turned, he'd expect that you add him. He's the one that pushed you to leave your teaching job. It doesn't need to be done until after you're married. I think you should get your own source of income, however, because if something were to happen to him, you're likely not going to get a dime out of the situation. Not the jerk. A marriage is supposed to be a union, two becoming one. What's his is yours, and what's yours is his. There's an unhealthy power imbalance here with your current situation. His giving you an allowance every month is giving him all the power in the relationship. You are completely dependent on him, and this sets up the possibility for a horrible dynamic. I would very much rethink your relationship. Karen demands to meet at my house. So, a couple of years ago, I was selling an iPad mini. To avoid possible theft at my parents' house, I would ask the buyer to meet at a neutral location. Reasonable, right? Not to this Karen. Here's how the conversation went. Karen: Hi, is the iPad still available? Me: Yes, $50 is the lowest I'm willing to take as I'm putting it towards a new tablet. I prefer Samsung electronics over Apple. Karen: Okay, where do I get it? Now, I live in a small town, and the largest gas station has a small eating area where you can enjoy your food without going outside in the winter. I figured I would meet her there, then get a sub at the Subway in there. Me: Can you meet me at the gas station? Silence. I figured she was looking for the address as she was from out of town. 2 days later, Karen messaged me again. Karen: So, my husband says that you stole it and you are trying to get us arrested. It is weird that you want to meet us at a gas station. His mom used to be a police officer. I don't want to buy stolen merchandise. Me: I didn't steal it. I got it in college with a massive $1,600 media kit. If you didn't steal it, why can't I come get it from your house? Me: 1, it isn't my house. It belongs to my parents. 2, even if it is my house, I'm not giving you my address. If your husband's mom was really a cop, he would know about the dangers of selling online. Karen was mad. She said it was my house or she's not buying. She stopped messaging me. It's not the end of the story. A week later, Karen messages me again. I changed my mind. I want the iPad. Me, lying. Sorry, I sold it. What? Why? You know I wanted it. Me: You said you didn't want it. You suspect I stole it because I wanted to meet at a neutral location. I'm sorry, but I wasn't going to hold it. You are an awful person. I hope someone comes and steals your new tablet. She blocked me after that. Thankfully, not too long after, a nice woman who understood why I didn't want people to know where I lived, she gave me $70 for the iPad, and I put that money aside for my Samsung. Have you ever sold something to someone online? If so, how did it go? Please let us know. Facebook Marketplace all day, bruh. Help! My boyfriend plays too much video games. So, I'm a 30-year-old female, and my boyfriend, who's 39, plays Heroes of the Storm a lot. He doesn't work, so it's not unusual for him to play 12 hours a day. Now, of course, I don't mind him playing video games, but it's the intensity that annoys me. One game lasts about half an hour, and he cannot get off the computer mid-game. Then he starts a new game immediately after. I hate that I have to do every little thing around the house while he plays. When coffee is ready, I'll bring him a cup too. Food delivery guy is at the door, so I'll get the food and take out the plates, etc. His phone is ringing and he asks me to answer. Food is nearly done, so I'll check on it every few minutes and make sure it doesn't overcook while he plays his game without a care in the world. I know these things are small, and I feel stupid even complaining about this, but there's many situations like this a day, and it makes me feel like I'm his personal assistant. That sucks, especially because I'm working and bringing in the money, so I feel like he should be doing a lot more than he's doing now. I tried talking to him about this, but he felt like I'm attacking him over something stupid. Today, I kinda snapped. I was working from home, and I still took care of these little things. I made us coffee and brought him a cup. Later, I made us some lunch and washed some dishes so we could eat. All I asked him to do was to take the food off the stove because I was on the phone with my coworker, but he couldn't because he was playing his game. I decided that I won't be doing him favors anymore. I'm gonna make my coffee only for me and he can make his own. When food arrives, he can get his own plate and I won't wait for him. I told him this, but he thinks I'm being ridiculous because the things I do are so small. He said that it literally takes me 0 effort to make coffee for him too. I know he's right, but I told him it was a principle. It's not fair that he doesn't do me any favors even when I'm working. I mean, he probably would, but he can't because his game is literally always on. He reminded me that he does half the bigger chores and we always go to the grocery store together. I admitted that he's right about that too. Well, he doesn't do half, but whatever. He told me that it'd be stupid to skip a 30-minute game just to get up for 30 seconds to get the door or get coffee or whatever. I understand him, but I tried to explain that every little thing shouldn't be my responsibility just because his game is unpausable and lasts 30 minutes every time he starts one. He called me childish and mean and that I was only trying to prove a point. Well, I might be childish, but am I the jerk? Update. I have to add, normally he's the most wonderful guy. He's gotten slightly depressed because he basically lost his job due to what's going on. He organizes events, and I think that makes him like this. Normally he doesn't play that much, and normally he makes more money than I do. I hope this is only temporary. Well, what would you do if you were in this situation? Would you keep doing everything on your own, or try to get your significant other to help out? Please let us know. I'd throw that game out is what I'd do. Don't play with me, boy. Am I the jerk for making my Tinder date cry? I, 28 male, met a sweet girl, 25 female, on Tinder. We were pretty much into each other, and I gotta say, she was different from any other girls I've dated throughout the years. We talked, sent each other pictures, but never met in person. That was because every time I asked her out, she'd say she wasn't ready. Until last week, she rang me and said she would like to go out for a nice dinner, and asked if I was still interested. I said yeah, I would absolutely love to. We set up a date. We decided to meet at a family restaurant that she knows too well and often frequents. Unfortunately, the place was packed. I don't like crowded places. I do not ever eat at crowded places, but I tried to suck it up and be nice. We sat and started talking. She told me that she was a widow. She lost her husband a year ago. I was in shock. She never mentioned this to me before. I thought that wouldn't bother me. That is, until she told me that she didn't find me on Tinder randomly. She chose me when she saw my pic and read my profile. I felt flattered, but she said that I looked pretty much like her husband, except that I was shorter, way shorter than him. Obviously, I disappointed her. She said they met the exact same way, different dating site, and talked about their first date. I was already feeling uncomfortable, but then she started tearing up. Her tone got loud, people noticed and started staring at us thinking I was being a jerk and making her cry. I got all sorts of nasty looks, especially from the ladies in the restaurant, and the look on my face wasn't helping. The waitress noticed and asked my date if she was okay. I tried to calm the situation down. My date excused herself to the bathroom because her mascara got ruined. A guy walked up to me, told me he was from this area and knew my date, then asked if there was an issue because she was crying. I just sat there like an idiot while he was implying that I better not be causing trouble. I so wanted to leave while she was in the bathroom. She got back looking all cheered up, then she started talking about her late husband again. 30 minutes later, while I was about to leave, I asked if she needed me to call an Uber, and she asked me to do it. I called her an Uber, then left shortly after her. She texted me and asked if I was upset because of what she did. I said it was okay. She said she wants to go out again soon, but I'm not too sure about that anymore. Trick me out of my laptop? You'll give me your car. 13 years ago, I was in my late teens, living on my own and really struggling to live financially. One of the few possessions I had was an old laptop. My laptop had stopped working properly, and while I'm fairly proficient in using a computer, I had no idea about fixing them. I did a bit of searching on the internet, but couldn't get it working, so I asked my stepdad to take a look. He has a quick look and says it's messed up, but he'll take it off my hands if I don't want it, so I said sure. If it's broken, then it's no good to me. 10 minutes later, I walk in the room and he's using it. I asked if he fixed it, and he says, "Yeah, thanks for the laptop." I was obviously upset. My mom says she wasn't getting involved, and his only response was that he did a quick internet search to find the fix, and I could have done the same. I was broke, and he took one of my only possessions, even though he had a PC and a laptop already. A few months later, I was visiting my mom and stepdad when I had an idea. While I am useless with computers, I'm very competent with mechanics, specifically Audis, and my stepdad had a 2001 Audi A3. Before coming in the house, I went under his car and unplugged the oil level sensor and a vac line for the turbo. Later on that day, he went to go to the shop or something. When he started the car, it threw up oil warning lights on the dash and wouldn't boost, so he turned it off and had a look of concern on his face. I went out to ask him what's up, and he said that something gone majorly wrong. He says something along the lines of catastrophic turbo failure or engine failure. He's already spent quite a bit on repairs and didn't want to spend any more money on it, so spoke to my mom about just cutting his losses and scrapping it. I asked how much it's worth at the scrapyard, and he says 100 pounds, so I ever so graciously offer 120 pounds to take it off his hands to maybe part it out, which he accepts. He signed over the logbook, title, and wrote me a receipt of purchase and handed the keys over. I walked outside, lifted the bonnet, pretended to look at my iPhone for a minute, went under the car and plugged the vac lines and oil sensor back in, fired it straight up, and drove around the block. When I got back, I gave him the thumbs up and said it's all fine now. His mouth was wide open and he was mega upset, and my reply was, "You could have found the solution too with a quick internet search." He tried arguing that it wasn't fair, and if it's working, then I can't just take his car. But I just said he didn't have a problem tricking me out of my laptop, and that he's already signed the car over to me, so tough luck. My mom kinda laughed and said she's not getting involved and that it was his own fault. I still have the car to this day, and it's practically in showroom condition and runs sweet. Edit. Guys and gals, it's not that unbelievable. I tricked someone into thinking their car was broken so I could have it. Yes, it's 100% true. Yes, I know I'm a jerk, and I don't deny that it was a jerk move, but I thought people might get a kick out of a bit of revenge. Speaking of cars, what's your favorite car of all time? Please let us know. I'm a Mercedes girl myself. Yes. Am I the jerk for dividing our family over an ultrasound? I, 32 female, and husband Frank, 34 male, were pregnant. Everyone on both sides of the family seemed super excited about the baby because it was the first grandchild on both sides. My parents ended up being in town coincidentally the day I had a scheduled ultrasound, so I invited them to tag along and see. Cue lots of happy tears. My in-laws never outright protested, but there were jealousy noises, so I decided to invite them to my next scheduled ultrasound. Mother-in-law and father-in-law live a fair distance away, so we planned a weekend around the scan. My sister-in-law has always been a bit tricky. She's 4 years younger than Frank and the baby of the family. No is not in her vocabulary. She has shown little to no interest in me or the pregnancy. I'm not offended by people not liking babies, no big deal. But I start getting tired of her calling our unborn kid things like goblin and fruit. Sister-in-law and I don't hang out or talk, by the way. She just posts sarcastic comments in the family chat. I just ignore her or let Frank handle it because life is too short for whatever this attention-seeking/jealousy/nonsense is. Fast forward to my picking my in-laws up at the airport Thursday night, and surprise, surprise, my sister-in-law is there too. We're a bit confused since she's never flown out to see us in 6 years of marriage and she wasn't invited. But yeah, she's showing an interest, so we go along. We go to dinner, and after we're talking about the scan, sister-in-law pipes up about how it better not be early in the morning because she's not forcing herself to miss sleep over my spawn. I laugh and tell her that the scan is scheduled for 7:15 a.m. and we'll be back in time for breakfast before she's even up. Sister-in-law loses it and starts screaming at me. Frank and I explain that there can be 3 people plus me in the room: him, father-in-law, and mother-in-law. Mother-in-law says Frank should be the one in the waiting room because she's our guest. I start getting annoyed because A, it's my ultrasound, B, it's his baby, C, she wasn't invited. I tell sister-in-law she's not coming and all heck breaks loose, screaming at me, calling me names, etc. In-laws back up sister-in-law and say that if she's excluded, they're not coming to the appointment either. Giant family fight, ending in Frank kicking his whole family out of the house, and we go to the ultrasound by ourselves. Baby is now 10 months, and in-laws still haven't met him. Sister-in-law hasn't spoken to us and blocked us on everything. Father-in-law and mother-in-law constantly harp on the fact if I had just let sister-in-law come to my scan, I wouldn't have divided the family and ruined everything this way, and they won't meet our son until we apologize and that I'm cruel for keeping him from his family. I think I should get a say in who I want at my own medical appointments, but it's been going on for over a year now, and they're still refusing to acknowledge the baby. Am I the jerk for not letting her come? Was it worth all of this sadness and drama for a 45-minute scan? Am I the jerk for depriving my son out of an entire half of his family because I wanted a say in my own pregnancy? Edit. Sorry guys, I'm new at this and forgot to mention the reason I think I might be the jerk. Yes, my sister-in-law is a brat, and yes, my in-laws are exhausting, and yes, I'm probably going to need another teeth-grinding night guard when I chomp through mine like a beaver. But he's a pretty cool little guy and is starting to learn words and recognize people and has a great relationship with my family. I'm anxious that no apology will be given on either side, and now it'll be 6 years down the road and I'll have to answer to him. Oh, why don't you have a relationship with daddy's family? Well, mom decided her hill to die on was a black and white video of you because she didn't want your aunt dictating her body or choices. Like, I get that I was in the right to have her not in my appointment, but should I swallow my pride enough to fix things that my little guy gets half his family back? Or stick to my guns because the whole family is family thing doesn't hold water if everyone is toxic drama? Edit 2. Yes, as those Redditors who have had babies before guessed, the ultrasound I'm referring to is the big 20-week anatomy and gender reveal ultrasound. So yes, my in-laws were saying they should all be in the room while my husband stood in the hall as we found out the baby's gender for the first time. To answer more questions, we're dealing with a family of Long Islanders here, so that should clear up most family dynamic questions. To the non-Americans in the post, Long Island is in New York and is characterized by loud, pushy, affluent, dramatic women. Sorry to everyone who's getting lumped in here. So in general, that means my sister-in-law is spoiled, rich, and the family princess. She has no mental or physical problems, has no known fertility issues, never been married, and is just all around rather difficult to deal with due to some serious entitlement issues. Sister-in-law dislikes me because her brother and I are vaguely apathetic to her. I'm not impressed by purses or horses or jewelry, so I just nod bemusedly as she shows me her newest Arabic tack or Von Cleef Swatch watch. I collect cake pans, so she finds my lack of social standing beneath her and that my husband is an embarrassment since he went into something so pedestrian as crypto. Since we don't need the family money, we try to stay out of family drama as much as possible since we embarrass her. Who knew buying jeans at Target was such an unpardonable offense? We try to just keep out of it, so the ensuing fight at our house was one for the ages. 30 years of family drama got brought up, missing my husband's debate championship for sister-in-law's writing schedule, father-in-law and mother-in-law always allowing sister-in-law to choose first at activities, vacations, theater tickets, etc. Frank seems to have found it heartbreaking, if cathartic, to finally let it all out. Now that everyone has clearly convinced me to wash my hands of my lingering guilt, I shall swift shake all this crap off and follow Frank's lead. The world is stressful enough without what these lovely people add to it. I won't stop if they choose to form a relationship with a baby, but it'll be on my husband's terms. You all were right, and that I felt like I had to fix it because I felt like I broke it, when I was really only the tipping point it fell off from. To the super kind-hearted people saying I can't be this innocuous and must be leaving something out? Wow, I wish I was. This would be far more palatable for me if I could pinpoint doing something that I could point to and be like, that tracks, I guess, I deserve that. I wish I was more interesting or dramatic, but I am incredibly boring. I'm basically Anne from Arrested Development personality-wise. I'm going to put this beep to bed, drink a big old glass of red wine, and listen to Don't Rock the Boat. because of all of the wonderful tipsy boat analogies. Thanks again, everyone. Cheers from our little family to yours. Karen demands I buy toys for her kid too. My husband, Dean, who's 29, and I, who am 26, have a wonderful daughter, Lisa, who's 4. I'm a musician by trade, so my work has pretty much stopped, and my husband has been working a lot the past few months. I'm basically at home all the time with Lisa, and she's missing her dad a lot, as she's his double and 100% a daddy's girl. Anyway, I met up with my sister, Rose, who's 32 recently, and we ended up visiting a toy store. I saw this male doll, which looked a lot like Dean, and I decided to buy it for Lisa so that she'd always have a reminder of her daddy. Rose was miffed by this and demanded I buy my niece, Flora, also 4, a doll. For years, Rose has been trying to basically force me to treat her daughter the same or better than my own. Here are some examples of her behavior. There's only 5 months difference between the girls, and I've had to deal with Rose being weird about that fact for years and during my pregnancy. Lisa is my second daughter, as I had a stillborn daughter in late 2014 at 20, and it broke me. Rose witnessed this, and when she announced her pregnancy, she was horrible and said that she was expecting the first grandchild, saying my first daughter didn't count, while our parents and family said it was the second grandchild. Then, when I got pregnant again, Rose was weird about it, saying I shouldn't have gotten pregnant so quickly and accused me of stealing her thunder of the new grandchild. There's been some other occasions where she just expects our kids to share everything and make everything about Flora for being the first grandchild, and I've just had to put up with it. Anyway, Rose kept insisting, and I just snapped and said, "No, I am sick of you pushing your kid onto me and basically making my own take a back seat. I'm buying my kid a doll, literally to make her happy because she's missing her daddy. Buy your own kid a toy." I ended up buying the toy and walking off. She went tattling to our parents, adding dramatic flair to the story, calling me a massive jerk for refusing to buy my niece a toy. My dad is on my side, saying I've had to put up with her glorifying her kid for years whilst ignoring mine, whilst my mom thinks I should give in to her. My husband says he's sick of Rose, and she even brought up my other daughter again, saying she'd be ashamed of her mommy. That reduced me to tears, and I told her she's dead to me, but my mom insists I apologize to Rose. Edit. The girls weren't with us. What would you do if you had a sister like Rose? Would you give in to her? Would you try to work things out? Please let us know. Update. Entitled parents who disowned us for not having kids struck again. I did not expect to be back so soon, but here we are. About a month ago, my fiancé and I posted about how both of our parents decided to threaten us to be taken off their will if we did not give them grandchildren, which we won't be. Anyhow, they struck again, and my fiancé is really fuming with rage now and wants to share the situation with you all. There are some points that will need clarification, and I'll try to make them along the way. First, as we mentioned in our last post, due to the absurdity of the situation our parents were imposing on us, we felt that we do not want them on our wedding. Thus, we rescinded their invitation as a whole. My brother is my best man, and he supports us wholeheartedly. Now we get to the point of the post. After we left my parents' home that day, we had absolutely zero contact with them. They made their decision and we made ours. We thought that was going to be it. Now, one thing that needs to be clarified, our wedding was planned to be happening in October 17th. However, due to everything going on right now, these large gatherings of people are completely prohibited, on my region at least. But thankfully, the venue we had acquired is run by the most lovely administrators. As soon as everything started, they contacted us and gave us every assistance needed with rescheduling. Thus, we rescheduled our wedding to 2021 in the same month, as the situation is still uncertain. That can change, but shouldn't for the time being. We aren't really bothered by it, as we understand the situation is very dire, and we don't mind waiting for a time where everyone will be safe, possibly. This morning, while I was studying for some exams I'll be having at school, my fiancé got a call from the venue administrator asking why did we want to cancel our wedding. Obviously, this was very strange and confusing to us. My fiancé let them know that we had no desire to cancel our wedding and further asked what that was about. Apparently, my fiancé's parents called the venue on our behalf, telling them that we no longer wanted to rent the place as we would no longer be getting married. Now, let me explain why the venue was leaning on accepting this situation. In my country, our IDs carry not only our ID and social security equivalent number, but also the name of the parents, and to rent a venue, you need to provide your ID for them as a bureaucracy requirement. I don't know if that's how it works everywhere, so I wanted to make it clear. Apparently, they wanted to take advantage of the fact and tried to dupe the venue to cancel our wedding. Luckily, the administrator is quite smart and saw that on our sheet, needed for rental, there are only 2 names/numbers for contact if we can be reached. One is my brother and the other is my fiance's best friend. At the time we booked the place, we were already in a strained relationship with our parents, so neither of us put them as a contact. Thankfully, the administrator actually paid attention to that and took the care and time to reach out to us. Otherwise, we might not only have lost our special date, but also all our deposit and dream venue. I'll be honest in saying that I never expected that kind of behavior from anyone in our families, but alas, it seems I was wrong. Anyway, now my fiancé is letting out fumes and I'm trying to calm her down. We already sent a contact to her parents and mine as we are sure they are in this together, for them to never try to meddle in our lives again. My brother is as angry as we are, and he just told me that he was heading to their house to tear them a new one. I don't even know how to feel right now. I'm crestfallen if anything. I never expected or wanted things to be this way, but neither of us will go back on our decision of not having kids. Truth be told, I already have the papers for sterilization ready. I just hope that one day they do see that their entitlement just lost them their son and daughter, all because of grandkids that will never exist. Cheers. Edit. Thank you for all the nice replies. We really appreciate it. We just spent the whole afternoon calling all our services, making sure to create methods so this never happens again. It's taken care of, and thank you all for the advice. I don't really know what my brother told them as he went from there to his work. I did get a text from them complaining that we released our rabid dog on them, which is amusing to be honest, as my brother is a very calm person. We won't contact them again. Once more, thank you for all the kind words. Second edit. We did decide on passwords with all of our contracts and shouldn't have any further problems. But on that note, for those who asked, our parents didn't give us a dime to pay for our wedding. We worked ourselves and paid for every little thing. They have absolutely no right over it. I did mention this on the previous post. We don't want their money, neither do we need it. We're just sharing and venting our frustration. Anyway, thank you all for the lovely replies and awards. Cheers. What would you do if your parents tried to cancel your wedding? Please let us know. I had canceled them. Am I the jerk for purposefully getting pregnant while I have a roommate? So, there's me, 27 female, my boyfriend, 30 male, and my friend, 23 female. Let's call her Becca. Well, my boyfriend and I had been discussing the possibility of starting a family for about 6 months before the you-know-what started. When our state went into lockdown, Becca went from full-time employment to part-time and could no longer afford her apartment on her own. So she asked if she could move in with us for a while until she could figure out what to do about her money situation. My boyfriend and I talked it over and both agreed that we wanted to help her out because she's a good friend and we didn't want to see her go into unnecessary debt or worse, have an eviction on her record if the worst case scenario happened. I warned her about the fact that my boyfriend and I were talking about having a baby though and that our decision wouldn't be hindered by our new living arrangement. She has a room to herself. We have a 2-bedroom apartment. She wasn't thrilled about this, but agreed because it was her best option. Well, we finally decided in July that we're both officially ready to have a baby. And somehow, we got lucky because I just found out last week that I'm pregnant. I'm so excited, and I couldn't wait to talk to Becca about it. I know it's early to tell people, but she is currently our roommate, and it'll be a change for her too. And oh man, was that a mistake. She was upset when I told her. She basically said that she's still really stressed and struggling because of her job situation and now is working 2 jobs, which means that she gets very little time to sleep or relax, and she doesn't want to live with a baby on top of everything else. I told her I'm very sorry that she's stressed and I know her situation sucks, but I warned her about this from day one. I understand that I could have told her when we started trying, but a lot of people are grossed out by that now, and it's not like she didn't know about our plans. Plus, it's my apartment and my life. I don't feel like I should have to put off my own life because I'm helping out a friend. So, am I the jerk for purposefully getting pregnant while I have a roommate? Well, what do you think? Should OP have changed her plans now that Becca lives with her or not? Please let us know. I think she needs to kick Becca out, to be honest. Don't think I'm worth the money? Kiss your income goodbye. So I was living in a town where there was an old hotel that was in the process of being converted to apartments. Ended up moving in and at some point started to help the owner, let's call him Steve, out with a lot of stuff. Started with little odd jobs here and there, helping tear out a wall or take debris out. No big deal really, made a few extra bucks. Being a geek, it didn't take long to start ending up helping handle some other stuff. They had internet access available, but it was using HPNA, so basically in-home DSL, over lines in a 50-year-old building. They slowly were adding more people here and there, so adding more capacity ended up being my job as well as handling the installs and troubleshooting. Building had its own cable system as well, and it had issues with some stuff overheating. Came up with a design that would simplify the build-out somewhat and remove the issue of overheating boxes, as well as adding more room for channels to be added and creating a type of scrolling TV guide channel using Titan and an auto-scroll plugin in the browser, then piping it onto a channel and adding some music. Before long, I was handling most of the maintenance for all of the apartments, internet, cable, lockouts, and whatever else might be needed. Then Steve's stepdaughter moved in, and things started to happen that were fishy. My information being removed as the lockout number, among other things. So I gracefully moved on and got out of the way as I didn't want to be in the middle of family. I also had no hard feelings for Steve over what the daughter or her husband was doing. I still got calls with questions and would answer them here and there. About 6 months after moving out, I got a call that Steve needed help as the boiler system was acting up and basically the building did not have heat. I went down and helped get things tore apart since the daughter's husband couldn't be bothered. He moved out of a house because he didn't want to take care of things, even though the wife did most of it. Ended up, the fins on the boiler had clogged up with soot during startups over a few years. We cleaned it all out and got it up and running. Owner had another project he wanted some help with, so rather than turn down some extra cash, I figured why not? We ran a small water line from the top of multiple plumbing shafts to the basements so that a set of valves could be put into place so the recirculation pump would be able to evenly get water through the lines and everyone would have instant hot water. Ended up moving back to the area a couple months later as I started helping Steve with an even larger building nearby. The old hotel, converted to apartments, was 10 stories tall, so not small, but didn't need a lot done most of the time. The new place was not as tall, but was larger and more spread out. One section had 3 floors, and the whole thing sat on something nearly the size of a city block. I think total square footage was around 50K inside. I was taking care of the apartment maintenance needs and a few other things again, as well as staying in the building with my wife, who was acting as a lookout in the evenings. During the day, I would help out with whatever was going on. We literally reworked a lot of structural steel, reclad one section of the building with corrugated steel sheets, extended one section of the building, and poured concrete floors and retaining walls. I started having issues here and there with getting overheated during the day, heat stroke, and while I was living there, I had not actually moved yet, so ended up taking a week to put most of our things in storage. We were literally living at the building in an RV I had to keep the building secure. When I got back, Steve started complaining that the power for the building was $100 and blamed it on me running an air conditioner. We had been running a 220 welder on average 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, but it had to be that AC unit, and basically said there was no way I could keep an eye on things if it was running because I couldn't hear anything. It had been over a month straight with highs over 100 degrees, but with another roof over my RV, it never got direct heat. So I called BS as my 2-bedroom apartment I just vacated only had electric costs around $120 per month, and it was all electric with a lot more items using power, including my aquarium. A question was then made about what I thought I was worth. I figured $10 per hour. I dealt with a lot, including maintenance on all the machinery and his vehicle, and never charged for fuel or mileage when I would drive my own vehicle to do things. For as long as I worked for the guy, I always had to bid my jobs outside of maintenance work. I was only receiving a flat amount of money each month for the work in the building, and my wife received nothing for keeping an eye out, which she did pretty well, since I actually caught someone in the building with her seeing them. Steve stated that no one was worth $10 an hour to him. Other things were being thrown out as my fault too. Basically, Steve was under the gun on a couple of things, as when he bought the building, it was actually scheduled to be torn down, and another building across the road, which was also scheduled to be torn down, was bought slightly after he purchased his, yet it had already been completely rehabilitated and was opening up space for lease. The other building was smaller, but had quite a bit more to have done to it to get it up to code. The roof was completely gone, and the inside was so full of trash it took nearly a month to clean it out. Steve kept changing things after something was done, and then turning around and changing them again, wasting more and more time. A lot of other things were going on as well, so I opted to be done and move on again this time with no option of going back. My wife's health had started going downhill anyway, so being blamed for petty crap wasn't worth it, and I obviously was not wanted around anymore. Now, here's the revenge. I had told him multiple times that there was an issue with his fire alarm panel not charging the batteries. The local fire department had been on him once before and forced more smoke detectors to be installed as a retrofit and a few other things. The smoke detectors were installed, but the battery charging issue was never fixed properly. Other things in the building had also started to fall into disrepair that I had told him needed to be dealt with. For instance, some very large windows were cracked and a few had pieces broken with tenants in them. It was a two-man job to fix the windows, and Steve had too many irons in the fire. He had sunk over $500K into the new building and couldn't afford to have someone else do the work and didn't think it was worthwhile, so he kept putting it off. I went ahead and contacted the city about issues that needed to be addressed, as well as dropped some complaints about things. I used multiple email addresses from accounts I set up for exactly that purpose, so it would never track back to me, and contacted multiple members of the city council as well as the fire chief/marshal. I never contacted Steve again, but the last time I was there, the apartment building was shut down with signs stating that it could not be occupied. Since the fire alarm panel had been written up on once before due to issues, and he had been told that if it became a problem again, a sprinkler system would be required to bring the building up to code with it acting up again, the fire marshal shut it down. The new building is now off the demolition list, but it once again sits empty as there is likely not enough money left to pull from the apartment building to make it complete. You see, being off the list only required it to be warehouse grade, which is basic lighting, emergency lighting, mostly airtight, with egress and fire systems. Once that was done, more work would be needed to actually start using the structure for office space and things of that nature. Going from 100 apartments to 23 with a few rent houses that needed work likely took the last little bit of money he had free to do things. The apartment building was truly unsafe, as if the power went out, the fire alarm panel would not function, and with a tall building, a fire on the lower floor would be bad. All he had to do was to fix it so the batteries were charged and would stay that way, and pay someone to work on the panel if it was acting up. But then again, no one was worth $10 an hour. Why would he pay someone who was going to make even more than that? I felt bad for most of the people who lived there since they lost their home, but I would have felt worse if they were hurt or worse in a fire. The one thing I wish I had seen was the stepdaughter and her husband's faces while they had to move. They were on the top floor, as well as Steve's and his wife's face when the building was basically condemned. But I still go back and look at the news article showing it was all shut down and have a little smile. It just doesn't pay to be a jerk when someone has tried to help you out. Am I the jerk for not helping a single mom? So, one of the women in my friend circle, Jane, who's 24, whom 26, female, don't know well, gave birth a couple of months ago. She doesn't have a job, and her parents refused to help her because she cheated on her boyfriend of 3 years for 6 months before her pregnancy. She then got pregnant, and the side guy broke it off, sending her ex-boyfriend proof of what was going on. When her boyfriend found out, he lost it and decided he didn't want anything to do with the kid. He works as a cashier, so he can't pay much child support. Jane decided to keep the kid and asked her friends to pitch in to help her pay for expenses and rent. After her son's birth, Jane decided that her current studio apartment, which we have been paying for, wasn't good enough for her. She needed a better place because it was too small. All our friends looked at me expectantly as I live alone in a large 3-bedroom apartment and am the only one in our group with a stable and well-paying job. I gave in and let her live with me under the condition that she would take care of her son and do some of the chores, washing her own dishes, doing their laundry, etc. The last 2 months have been heck for me. She whines if I ask her to do anything and even called me selfish and mean because I, at first, refused to take care of her kid, who she is being paid to take care of. She forced me to take 3 leaves because she wanted to go out. This Monday, I woke up to get to work and found her gone with a note on my fridge on how she needed a break and wouldn't be back till late. I called her and texted her, telling her that I couldn't take leave or find a babysitter on such short notice. I decided to work from home and take care of the baby while she celebrated about starting a new chapter of her life. When she came back, I placed her son in her arms and gave her a month's notice, telling her to go find a new setting for her new chapter. She started crying and begged me to reconsider. I told her I was tired of being her bank account and that if she wasn't ready to take care of her own kid, then she shouldn't have had one in the first place. I woke up to angry texts from our friends the next day. Jane has been guilt-tripping me since Tuesday. She's been complaining to friends and posting on social media about how some people don't understand single mother struggles. She said she deserved all my money and would sue me for it. I said good luck and told her I would stop paying for her necessities if she kept acting like this. That shut her up for now. I feel like I did the right thing, but I also think that I picked the worst time for this because of everything going on. Am I the jerk? As a kid, I was neglected by my parents and wasn't even close enough to them to talk to them about the weather. I didn't want Jane's son to have a bad parent because I know what it's like, so I tried to help and maybe get Jane to realize that her son is the one person closest to her right now and she should take care of him. About our friend group, they've not listened to me at all and asked me if I really expected a new mother to work. I really don't know what's going on in their heads. They said that as I had the resources to take care of them, it was my duty to. They haven't helped with Jane's bills since she moved in. Her baby's father is minimum wage. She won't reveal to me exactly how much she gets. She just said it wasn't enough to foot her own grocery bill. Pretty sure that isn't true. Well, what do you think? Do you agree with OP or with Jane? Please let us know. Sounds to me like OP needs to find some new friends and kick Jane out. You're physically incapable of leaving the store? I work at a small store on a college campus. We're right across the street from the school's bookstore and are technically a branch of it. Every semester, the bookstore hosts a poster sale outside in a tent. It's completely leased out to a company and all transactions are done through them. I couldn't honestly tell you what we get out of it, but it's not sales. School started this week for us, and despite everything going on right now, we're all going ahead with mostly in-person classes. Still, we've had a lot of phone calls instead of in-person sales, and I'm always grateful to the people who do them since it benefits both of us. Today, I got a call from someone a bit different. Caller: Hey, I just spoke with your staff about the details of the poster sale, and I was just calling back to see if you could tell me the price of the posters. Me: I'm so sorry, but I don't actually know. It's not actually under our division. We just know the dates and times because of the flyers they asked us to hand out. Caller: Well, could you go check for me? Me: I'm sorry, but they don't have a website, and all the posters are different sizes and prices anyway. I can transfer you to the bookstore and someone might be able to help you over there. Caller: Well, can't you just go across the street and check for me? It's literally right there. Me: incredibly short-staffed and already having a terrible day. I'm sorry, sir. I can't leave the store. What do you mean? It's literally right across the street. It'll just take a second. Me, completely taken aback that this man, who isn't even a customer, is asking me to literally exit my store to tell him the prices from another retailer. Sir, I'm clocked in over here. I'm sorry, I can't leave the store. You literally can't leave the store? Like you're physically incapable of leaving the store? Me, completely done with the day at 11 a.m. Yes, that's correct. Caller: Wow, great customer service. Thanks. At this point, I said thank you, and he told me to have a nice day. I attempted to return the sentiment, but alas, my new friend hung up on me, and just when he was learning the boundaries of my workplace prison. Maybe one day I will escape the physical entrapment of my store. Edit: I'd just like to add that this poster sale is done entirely in person. They don't ship or hold anything or do orders over the phone as they don't have a phone. He would have to go inside the tent no matter what.
Imagine your boss finds out that you're rich and starts flirting with you constantly, but you have no interest in them, plus they're married. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.